subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Synopsis. Once you crossed, you came to this world ravaged by pirates. World government. Naval headquarters for emperors Shichibukai, great pirates devil fruit, conquerors Haki, supreme knife, ultimate pure gold fur clan, mermaid clan, fish clan, giant clan, villain clan, snakehead clan. Let's see how EC, the only prince of Helios Kingdom, led the kingdom step by step to become a powerful country. 1. The only prince of Helios, C. Circle calendar, 1500. This year, in the kingdom of Helios, which is located in the remote sea in the first half of the Grand Line, Queen Eliza gave birth to a son. When King Ilo saw that the mother and son were safe, he immediately announced a national celebration. The entire kingdom of Helios was completely immersed in joy. The royal family had successors, and the entire kingdom was extremely happy. See Circle Calendar 1505. Kingdom of Helios, Crown Heights, within Uranus Palace. At this time, 5-year-old Helios, EC, was standing beside the floor-to-ceiling windows of his room, quietly bathing in the sunlight. The bright sunlight shone on EC's body, as if putting on a golden gauze for 5-year-old EC. Standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, EC looked downstairs at the flowery garden downstairs, and the whole person couldn't help but fall into memory. EC, a traveler. In the previous life, he was a blue star because he was in the game of nautical character battles. Then he was sanctioned and banned by the system, and smashed his mobile phone in a rage, but he was accidentally electrocuted and finally came to this world. EC's soul traveled through time and space into the womb of his mother in this life, wrapped in a touch of golden data. In the end, the mother of this life, Queen Eliza of the Kingdom of Helios, was pregnant for 10 months and gave birth to EC. At the same time, the father of this life, His Majesty the King of Helios Kingdom. Helios, Ilo named EC as the only prince of the kingdom at the moment EC was born, and Helios next heir to the king. That is to say, in this life, EC was born with brocade clothes and jade food, and enjoyed endless prosperity and wealth. At the beginning, EC thought so too, but after 5 years of growth and learning, EC finally understood what world he had crossed into. This is a decadent world ruled by pirates and ruled by world nobles, celestial dragons. Here, endless evil pirates wantonly burn, kill, and loot, committing all evils. Here, the ugly and twisted world nobles, the celestial dragons, rule the world. Here, marine is not a real justice, but a violent tool of the world government to maintain its rule. This is the world of One Piece in the anime of EC in the previous life. A world of corruption, chaos, and sin. When EC fully understood the world he was in, EC couldn't help but fall into anxiety. Here, the strong can do whatever they want. Here, the weak can only survive and go with the flow. Even though EC in this life has become the prince of a kingdom, but he understands the nature of this world, he still falls into anxiety. Although EC is a traveler, but because of being a traveler, EC has a clearer understanding of the nature of the world than anyone else. In this sinful world, without strength, it is like a rootless duckweed, and I do not know when it will be submerged under the turbulent tide. He is not a monster born with a monster physique, nor is he a monster born with a natural talent. EC's blood is just the pure and ordinary human blood in this One Piece world. Except for the slightly nobler status, everything else is the same as ordinary people. Although the Kingdom of Helios is located in a remote sea area, EC inevitably falls into anxiety without the guarantee of strength. He was afraid that the kingdom he was in might accidentally provoke powerful pirates and be wiped out. Moreover, the kingdom he was in was not a member country of the world government, and he was also afraid, not knowing when the world government would attack his kingdom. Today's self is only a 5-year-old infancy. If something really happens, I really can't do anything. Fortunately, God has eyes on the night of the new year this year. EC quietly awakened the plugin in the previous game, the Treasure of the King. It was at that moment that EC's heart was a little more settled. Having the means to make himself stronger quickly gave EC the courage to face the world. King's Treasure is a plugin opened by EC in the previous life of the nautical character battle game. Although the name is exactly the same as that of a certain Golden King's Treasure, it does not contain those noble phantasms in a certain Golden King's Treasure. Because it had to adapt to the situation of the original game, the plugin of King's Treasure was set based on the situation in the game at that time. King's Treasure Ability 1. The owner of the King's Treasure can enter and exit the golden chaotic space inside the King's Treasure at will. King's Treasure Ability 2. Use any item to fuse the Noble Phantasm embryo in the King's Treasure to form a golden Noble Phantasm. King's Treasure Ability 3. Noble Phantasm can be manipulated at will. Damaged Noble Phantasm is automatically repaired in King's Treasure. Noble Phantasm can be bestowed, and Noble Phantasm can be recycled. King's Treasure Ability 4. The types of Noble Phantasms are divided into consumable Noble Phantasms and fixed Noble Phantasms. Noble Phantasm types are active Noble Phantasms and passive Noble Phantasms. Therefore, among EC's Treasures of the King, there is not any Noble Phantasm, and all Noble Phantasms have to be generated by EC himself. However, it is also because of this situation that EC's Treasure of the King is super malleable. Recovering his divergent thoughts, EC turned around and slowly sat back on his luxurious big bed. With a slight movement in his mind, an attribute light curtain that only EC can see appeared in front of EC. Treasure of the King. Helios EC, 5 years old. Combat strength. Toddler level physique. Ordinary people ability. No Haki, no devil fruit, no noble tools. Deep sea night pearls. Natural diamonds. Crystal cups. First class tea sets. Top kitchen utensils. Steamed king crabs. Aged wine. TSK, except for some life-related noble phantasms. Everything else is blank. It seems that I have to talk to the father. Looking at the light curtain in front of him, EC frowned slightly and couldn't help but whisper. Moreover, if you want to rely on the Treasure of the King to gain power quickly, there should be some good things in the treasury of the kingdom. After obtaining the King's Treasure, EC experimented with it. As long as the items were fused with a Noble Phantasm embryo, a brand new Noble Phantasm could be formed. And every Noble Phantasm has its own corresponding function. Even some living items have magical effects. For example, Noble Phantasm, Deep Sea Night Pearl, type, passive effective Noble Phantasm, PS. It will automatically take effect when placed in the Treasure of the King, or it will take effect automatically when you carry it with you. Type. Inherent Noble Phantasm, Liberation. Enhance a little night vision ability, Noble Phantasm. Natural Diamond type. Passive effective Noble Phantasm, type. Inherent Noble Phantasm, Liberation. Enhances a little body defense Noble Equipment. Superior T-set type. Actively effective Noble Phantasm, PS. After actively liberating the Noble Phantasm ability, you will obtain the magical skills of the Noble Phantasm. Type. Inherent Noble Phantasm, Liberation. Top team making skills, Noble Phantasm. Crystal Cup, type. Active Noble Phantasm, type. Inherent Noble Phantasm, Liberation. The poured wine will become more mellow, Noble Phantasm. Aged wine, type. Active Noble Phantasm, type. Consuming Noble Phantasm, Liberation. After eating 1,000 cups, do not get drunk. There are 2 types of Noble Phantasms, namely active Noble Phantasm and passive Noble Phantasm. Actively effective Noble Phantasm requires the person who holds the Noble Phantasm to liberate on his own in order to obtain the ability of the Noble Phantasm. For example, if EC wants to make tea with a Noble Phantasm, a high-quality tea set, then, if the Noble Phantasm is not liberated, EC's level of making tea is still his own level. However, if you actively liberate the Noble Phantasm, then the top-level tea-making skills that come with the high-quality tea set will temporarily appear on EC's body. Here, EC brews tea again, and it is able to brew the top-notch tea fragrance. As for the passive effective noble phantasm, it is well understood. For example, the deep-sea night pearl, as long as EC keeps it in the treasure of Wangji. The night vision capability of deep-sea night pearl will continue to take effect. This is the difference between an active noble phantasm and a passive noble phantasm. Finally, there's the type of noble phantasm. Among EC's treasures of the king, there are only two types of noble phantasms, which are consumable noble phantasms and fixed noble phantasms. Simply put, it is the consumption of noble phantasm and fixed noble phantasm. Consuming noble phantasm, as the name suggests, is a noble phantasm that disappears after one-time use. For example, noble phantasm, aged wine. After drinking this bottle of king's treasure, it will be gone, and it will not regenerate. This is the consumption of noble phantasm. Another example is the noble phantasm and the crystal cup. No matter whether the crystal cup is poured into wine or a drink, it will not have any effect on the crystal cup after drinking it. Moreover, even if the crystal cup is accidentally hung on the ground and shattered, it will automatically return to the treasure of the king to repair itself. This is a fixed noble phantasm. After spending some time getting acquainted with the king's treasure that is exclusive to him, EC set his sights on the kingdom's treasury. As a kingdom with hundreds of years of history, even if it is located in a remote sea area, the accumulation of the kingdom's treasure house is considerable. Tread ta-ta-tau. Just then, outside EC's room, there was a slight sound of footsteps. With a soft push on the door, a middle-aged woman dressed as a maid walked in slowly. "I have seen your highness." Seeing EC, who was sober, the middle-aged woman dressed as the head maid hurriedly saluted respectfully. "Linda, get up." Looking at the head maid in front of him, EC nodded to signal him to get up. "Thank you, your highness." Linda got up and then said again, "Your highness, His Majesty the King and Queen are already having breakfast. Please go to dinner." Hearing this, EC retracted the light curtain in front of him, got up, and walked towards the door. Seeing this, Linda hurriedly followed behind EC. At this time, after EC walked out of the door, the maids in the 2 rows of the wide corridor saluted EC. "I have seen your highness." "Good morning, your highness." EC just nodded at this and didn't say much, but left the palace directly. After EC left, the maids walked into EC's room and started cleaning and cleaning. 2. The plight of the kingdom's current era, all the way through several palaces, came to the palace where the royal family dined. As soon as he came in, EC saw a handsome and beautiful couple. The man was wearing a gorgeous king's robe and the crown of Helios on his head. He was the father of EC's life, Helios Ilo. At this time, the handsome face of King Ilo was talking and laughing with the people beside him with a doting look. Sitting beside the king was the mother of EC in this life, Queen Eliza of Helios. Queen Eliza is wearing a slim purple dress, and the 2 purple eyes on her beautiful goose face are dazzling. At this time, Queen Eliza was talking with King Ilo, chatting and laughing. It could be seen that the 2 should be chatting happily. "Father, mother, good morning." Coming to the table, EC bowed to King Ilo and Queen Eliza. "Hey, cute EC is here. Come and sit with mom." After seeing EC, Eliza's eyes lit up, and she quickly motioned for EC to sit beside her. In this regard, EC is also kind and obedient to take the position beside Eliza. After EC was seated, the maids who had already prepared hurriedly served a rich breakfast and placed it in front of EC. "Little EC, did you miss your mother last night?" After EC sat down, Queen Eliza shook off King Ilo and looked at EC with bright eyes. While speaking, Queen Eliza gently pinched EC's little face. No." Feeling the hands constantly pulling on his face here, EC rolled his eyes. Although he knew that he had inherited the genes of the 2, and he was very cute since he was a child, but every time he saw him, he was pinched in the face, and EC was still not used to it. "I don't even think about my mother. So sad." After hearing EC's words, Queen Eliza pouted unhappily. Aside, King Ilo shook his head and said, "Okay, Eliza, let EC have breakfast first." Hearing this, Queen Eliza could only let go of her hands. Okay. After finally getting rid of the trouble of being pinched, EC couldn't help but look at King Ilo. Is more than words. After all, King Ilo was a famous vinegar jar in the entire Helios Kingdom. Even EC is jealous when Queen Eliza pinches her face and hugs her, which shows how easy it is for King Ilo to be jealous. Even his 5-year-old son's jealousy can be eaten, even though King Iloa's tone was normal just now, but the jealousy in his eyes could not be concealed from EC's eyes. EC also said that he has gained a lot of knowledge about his wonderful father and king in this life, and he never thought that there would be such a vinegar jar. After a peaceful breakfast, EC turned his head and said to King Ilo after the maids had cleared the table, "Father, I want to go to the kingdom treasure house to have a look." Hearing this, King Iloa was about to get up for a moment and then sat back in his seat. Why? Whatever you want, the father can get it for you, but the treasure house of the kingdom is the most important place in the country. If you want to enter, you have to grow up. After all, there are a lot of various materials related to the life and safety of the kingdom in the treasury of the kingdom. If you are not careful, it will easily affect the safety of the kingdom. After hearing King Ilo's words, EC couldn't help but nodded. He also understood the importance of the kingdom's treasure house. However, thinking of his awakened king's treasure, EC still intends to go to the kingdom's treasure house to have a look. Father, I awakened a magical ability some time ago that allows me to put the rest of the things into that magical space. As long as the item is put into that magical space, the original item will also have some magical effects. After saying that, the space beside EC began to have golden ripples. Under the surprised gaze of King Ilo and Eliza, EC reached out his hand and fell into the golden ripples. Then, the 3 golden objects were taken out one by one and placed on the dining table. This is looking at the golden noble phantasm on the dining table. King Ilo couldn't help frowning. EC, you ate devil fruit. No, EC shook his head and denied it directly. I didn't eat devil fruit. I've experimented, and I'm not afraid of sea water and sea stone. Because the kingdom of Helios is located on the Grand Line, I also know a lot about devil fruit, Conqueror's Haki, etc. After hearing EC's words, King Ilua's eyes suddenly lit up slightly. Not afraid of sea water, not afraid of sea stone. So that's what you're born with. Speaking of this, King Ilo was a little excited. I didn't expect that there will be geniuses with innate talents in our royal family. Could it be that our kingdom of Helios is finally about to usher in its founding? Seeing King Ilua's excited look, EC didn't bother, but quietly waited for him to quiet down. EC understands the mood of King Ilo. The kingdom of Helios is located on the edge of the first half of the Grand Line, on a huge island called Crown Island. The Isle of the Crown is huge, even bigger than the Isle of St. where the original Alabasta is located. The resources on the island are rich, so that the population on the Crown Island has been greatly improved. However, half of the island is located on the edge of the first half of the Grand Line, and the other half is located within the Calm Belt. The entire Crown Island is located in a remote sea area, and the sea is not safe, so it has been in a closed country. In the center of the island, at the junction of the Grand Line and Calm Belt, there is a towering, huge platform shaped like a crown, so this huge island is named Crown Island. The Helios royal family is located in the Crown Heights in the center of the island, and the island area on the Grand Line in front of the Crown Heights is the living area. The island area behind Crown Heights in the Calm Belt is a military zone. The royal ancestors of the Helios Kingdom understood the importance of strength, so they never exposed the kingdom. Because of the remoteness and the low profile of the kingdom, and the fact that he has been secluded from the country, he tried to reduce his sense of existence as much as possible. Therefore, the kingdom of Helios is not a member of the world government, and few pirates will come to this sea area. Therefore, the kingdom of Helios has been very low-key for hundreds of years, and its life is basically self-sufficient. Today, the kingdom of Helios has a total population of 30 million, including 2 million troops, each of which is 500,000 in the Eastern Army, Southern Army, Western Army, and Northern Army. Although the Kingdom of Helios has entered a closed country because of its need to protect the people. However, the Helios royal family has had the dream of founding a country for generations, so the military power has been continuously improved. As a king, if you can't make the people live better, if you can't make your country stronger, so this king is a failure. It is a pity that the kings of all dynasties are very clear that without strength, rushing to found a country will only bring about its own destruction. Therefore, the kings of the Helios royal family in all dynasties have been keeping a low profile until they have no absolute strength. Generations of kings have continuously developed the hard power and soft power of their own countries, hoping that one day they will be able to truly start a country and let the name of the Kingdom of Helios resound throughout the sea. However, no absolute powerhouse has ever appeared in the Kingdom of Helios in all dynasties. So, as a last resort, most of the royal family's center of gravity is placed in the Calm Belt. Because half of Crown Island is located in the Calm Belt, the Ministry of Military Industry of the kingdom also invented fuel engine technology. In addition to the sea stone that was secretly sent to sea to buy, the ships of the kingdom can also sail in the Calm Belt. Within the Calm Belt, there are a large number of islands with rich resources, so the treasure house of the kingdom is still very rich. However, the kings of all dynasties knew that wealth was not exposed, and there was no strong power within the kingdom, so they did not dare to use a lot of resources. After all, if it is targeted by pirates or the world government, it will be difficult to handle. Nowadays, looking at the richer and richer kingdom treasure house, the wish of the kings from generation to generation is to want top-level powerhouses to appear in the royal family and lead the kingdom on the road of becoming a powerful country. Especially the current king, EC's father, King Ilo, is now in the age of the great pirate. The fall of the few words before the death of the pirate king has led to more and more pirates going out to sea to find great treasures, and the kingdom of Bauki will be discovered by some pirates. At that time, if the kingdom does not have the power to protect itself, it will passively go to the road of destruction. So, don't look at King Iloa's preconceptions, but his heart is still very anxious. He didn't want the kingdom of Helios to be destroyed by himself or his own children. Therefore, King Iloa was so excited after hearing EC say that he had awakened his innate abilities, because King Ilo seemed to see the opportunity of the kingdom of Helios, the founding and rise of the kingdom, from EC. After the excitement, King Ilo gradually calmed down. Your innate ability can make items have magical abilities? Hearing this, EC nodded, pointed to the 3 golden noble phantasms on the table, and said, "These 3 items are the things I tested before. After being put into that magical space, the things that change, I call them noble phantasms. These 3 treasures are, in order, the crystal cup, the aged wine, and the pearl of the deep sea. Its functions, in turn, are to improve the taste, not get drunk after 1,000 cups, increase the ability of night vision, and use it." While talking, EC explained how to use the noble phantasm. And, under EC's suggestion, King Ilo and Queen Eliza also tried it out themselves. Immediately, both of them were shocked by the magical effect of the noble phantasm. As a result, King Ilo did not intend to follow the original rules, but was willing to make an exception for EC. As a king, King Ilo was not short-sighted. He knew very well that EC's ability must be used as soon as possible. And the better the thing used, the stronger its noble phantasm. Correspondingly, the stronger the noble phantasm, the stronger EC's strength can be. 3. The treasure house of the kingdom, piled up in mountains of various resources. Good. After personally verifying it, King Iloa was extremely happy. Haha, my son EC, I have the capital of Admiral. The time for the founding of the Kingdom of Helios has finally arrived. Ha ha ha. Overjoyed, King Iloa didn't even care about his royal etiquette and stood up and laughed. On the side, Queen Eliza also looked at EC in surprise, and she couldn't help but feel a proud son's promising son in her heart. As for EC, there were a few black lines on his forehead, and he always felt like he had seen what King Ilo just said before. Finally, After laughing for a while, King Ilo finally calmed down slowly. Go. Go to the kingdom's treasury with your father. The sooner your abilities play a role, the best choice for you and the kingdom of Helios. Hearing this, Isi got up quickly. Yes, father. Yeah, nodding. King Ilo calmed down and said to Queen Eliza, who was beside him, Queen, I'll take EC to the treasury of the kingdom first. You can wait for me in the back garden later. I was originally here to accompany you today. However, EC's matter is very important, and the time may be a little later. It's okay, Your Majesty. Queen Eliza shook her head, indicating that she didn't care. Now it's EC's matter that is more important, and I can tell that. Hearing this, King Iloa nodded and said nothing, but walked directly outside. Seeing this, EC hurriedly waved at Queen Eliza, indicating that he should leave first, and then quickly followed. Under the leadership of King Ilo, the 24 maids walked through more than a dozen palaces and arrived at a remote corner of the palace. Here, a large number of kingdom troops are constantly guarding the kingdom's treasure house in all directions, and there are patrolling kingdom troops everywhere as far as the eye can see. EC, this is the treasure house of the kingdom. When he got here, King Ilo explained to EC, the treasure house of the kingdom is the most important place in the country. Every month, a legion will be on duty. This month, the kingdom's East Army is guarding the treasure house of the kingdom. As soon as the words fell, a tall, middle-aged man wearing armor and carrying a giant axe walked quickly to the two of them. I have seen Your Majesty. Diner, the current commander of the Eastern Army of the kingdom's army. King Ilo first revealed the identity of the person who came to EC, and then spoke to Diner. Diner, this is EC. Hearing this, Dinur was shocked and hurriedly bowed to EC. I have seen His Royal Highness. Seeing Diner saluting him, EC smiled slightly. Commander Diner, no need to salute. Thank you, Your Highness. After hearing EC's words, Diner quickly thanked him. Okay, you guys also know each other. Diner opened the kingdom treasury. Seeing that EC and Dinal got to know each other, King Ilo couldn't wait to speak. Yes, Your Majesty. For King Ilo's request, Diner didn't hesitate at all, and hurriedly went to command the soldiers of the Eastern Army to open the kingdom's treasure house. Although he didn't know why his king brought his prince to the kingdom's treasury early in the morning, Diner didn't ask anything. After all, the entire kingdom of Helios belongs to the royal family, and the rules of the kingdom's treasury are also made by the royal family themselves. Now, King Ilo must have his own reasons for breaking the royal rules, so Diner didn't say much. Boom soon, under the gaze of King Iloa and EC, the palace in front of him shook violently. Along with a dull roar, the heavy stone gate outside the palace began to slowly move towards both sides. With the fire lit inside the palace, standing outside the palace, EC could still find the closed doors inside the palace. Let's go. Since I brought you here, let me tell you something about the kingdom's treasure house. Seeing that the stone gate of the palace was fully opened, King Iloa walked in slowly with EC. Diner, the soldiers of the Eastern Army, and a dozen maids stood outside waiting quietly. Entering the palace, the treasure house of the kingdom, EC found the doors leading to different places. King Ilo found EC's curious eyes and pressed the open button of the first door. Crunch as the door slowly opened, King Ilo's voice also rang out. EC, the gates in the palace of the kingdom's treasury are all places leading to different treasures. For a kingdom, treasures don't just represent valuables like gold and silver jewelry. Grain, minerals, and other resources are also a kind of alternative treasure. Of course, to put another way, these various resources can also be said to be national reserve resources. And now behind this gate is our kingdom's seed storage warehouse. Bang, with the gate fully opened, King Ilo walked in with EC. As soon as he came in, EC found that the space inside was so wide that he couldn't even see the other side at first glance. In this warehouse, rows of precious wooden racks are displayed in parallel, and a large number of well-preserved seeds are placed on the wooden racks. EC casually walked through a row of wooden racks with King Ilo, and he could see a lot of seeds of different categories, such as Vajra wood seeds, pine tree seeds, sakura flower seeds, etc. Here is our kingdom's seed bank. While walking casually with EC, King Ilo said, "Here, flowers and trees, all kinds of grain and vegetables and other seeds are available. As long as it is all kinds of plants we have encountered in our kingdom, we will collect seeds and save them here after we figure out the role of plants. Half of our kingdom lies within the Calm Belt. And within the Calm Belt, there are also a large number of islands with all kinds of rare plants. Some things that are beneficial to the kingdom will be cultivated and transplanted. Due to the seclusion of the country, everything in the kingdom is self-sufficient. And the appearance of those rare plants has also allowed the kingdom to produce unique things to meet the various needs of the people." After wandering around for a while, King Ilo took EC and left the treasury of seed reserves. Closing the gate, King Ilo took EC into the second gate. Here is the kingdom's grain reserve. EC couldn't help being a little surprised when he saw the various kinds of food that were like hills. The Crown Island, where the kingdom is located, is very large, and the complex and changeable weather of the Grand Line makes it possible to have different weather even within one island. So, when a certain area of the kingdom is unable to eat enough due to the weather, then the kingdom's food reserves will come into play. EC, you must keep in mind that the kingdom's grain reserve should be filled anytime and anywhere, which is the foundation of ensuring the survival of the people. Hearing King Iloa's words, EC quickly responded, "Father, don't worry, the child understands." "Yeah." Nodding, King Iloa took Iloa away from the food reserve treasury with a little relief. Walking into the third gate, all kinds of minerals were printed in the eyes of the two of them. Gold, or iron, or copper, or diamond limestone oil barrels. There are countless kinds of mineral resources. EC, here is the kingdom's mineral reserve. This time, King Iloa did not take EC too deep, but stood near the gate after entering the gate. The minerals of Crown Island have already been mined after hundreds of years of mining. And these minerals come from the islands of the Calm Belt. The Calm Belt is dangerous, with all sorts of large and even oversized sea kings. However, each island within the corresponding Calm Belt is rich in various resources. Hundreds of years ago, when the kingdom was just established, the focus of the kingdom's development at that time was not in the Calm Belt. However, after that, as the sea became more and more chaotic, the kingdom decided to close the country. And if you want to be self-sufficient in a closed country, then Calm Belt is the only development direction. In the beginning, every time the kingdom's warships entered the Calm Belt, they suffered heavy losses. However, after generations of continuous research and invention, the kingdom's scientific research department found that sea stone can play a certain role. So, the kingdom secretly purchased some sea stones to be embedded in the bottom of our fuel engine warships. By the way, I forgot to tell you that the fuel engine warship is a warship specially developed by the kingdom to sail in the Calm Belt. The Calm Belt doesn't have any wind, so sailing warships can't sail there. After the research and development of the scientific research department, it was found that some fuels, such as minerals such as oil, can be burned, and various types of gases can be produced to have power. With this power, the kingdom's warships can sail on the Calm Belt, which is the kingdom's fuel engine warships. Since then, although there are still occasional incidents of boat capsizes and casualties, the sacrifices of the Kingdom Legion have been greatly reduced. After that, the kingdom has been wandering around the Calm Belt, looking for various resources on various islands. As a result, it has continued to this day, and it has also led to the extraordinary abundance of resources in our kingdom's reserves. After that, King Ilo left the treasure house of mineral reserves with EC. Immediately afterwards, under the leadership of King Ilo, EC successively referred to several remaining kingdom's treasuries. A treasure trove of sundries, storing a huge amount of civilian supplies and fine wines. The treasure house of weapons reserves, which reserves a huge amount of military weapons and weapons, such as swords, bombs, firearms. The treasure house of scientific research reserves, which reserves some things invented by the scientific research department of the kingdom, such as fuel engines, new warships, new artillery. Inside the treasury of knowledge reserves, there are rows of bookshelves and a large number of books are placed on the bookshelves in different categories. For example, related to law, related to agriculture, related to people's livelihood, related to technology, related to society, scholars' experience, related to history, related to navigation. The entire treasury of knowledge reserves is like a super large library where countless books are completely preserved. 4 Devil Fruit, 2 Color Haki, Burial at Sea. EC followed behind King Ilo and successively entered the treasury of the 7 kingdoms. Finally, King Ilo took EC to the last treasure house of the kingdom's reserve, the Treasure House of Treasures. Crunch as the door opens, standing outside the door. You can also find the jeweled scene inside the door. A large number of gold and silver jewelry, antique baileys, etc. are piled up together, and the entire reserve exudes a rich jewel. EC here is the last treasure house of the kingdom. Walking into the door with EC, King Law looked at the treasures around him and said softly, "All the wealth of the kingdom is within this treasure house. Besides that, in the depths of the treasure house, there are some special things." As he spoke, King Aloal walked towards the depths of the treasure house with EC. EC looked at the gold and silver jewels around him and didn't react, but followed closely behind King Ilo. EC has a hunch that something really useful to him is about to appear. The previous 7 treasure houses were basically aimed at the development of the entire kingdom. In this last treasure house, the gold and silver treasures all over the ground is also aimed at the development of the entire kingdom. What EC wants is not these things, and now EC has a hunch that what he wants is finally coming. Tread ta-ta-tau. Accompanied by 2 footsteps, it sounded inside the silent treasure house. Soon, the figures of King Iloa and EC stopped beside a jade platform deep in the treasure house. That is, looking at the 4 fruits with spiral patterns on the jade platform, EC's eyes could not help but flicker. Devil fruit! 4 devil fruit! A sigh filled with surprise resounded in EC's heart. Standing beside the jade platform, King Iloa's voice slowly rang in EC's ear. Here is the depths of the treasure house. The things placed here are the most precious things in the entire sea. Extending his finger to the jade platform, King Iloa couldn't help but look a little proud. Devil fruit, the secret treasure of the sea. You will get magical and powerful power when you eat it. For hundreds of years, the kingdom has also found some devil fruit in the calm belt. Accumulated from generation to generation, there were originally more than 20 devil fruits. It's just that, because of the need to ensure the security of the kingdom, every time a genius appears in the kingdom, he will be rewarded with devil fruit. Use devil fruit to boost their power so they can better protect the kingdom. Although the sea area where the kingdom is located is remote, it does not mean that the kingdom is absolutely safe. There will always be some pirates who arrive in the kingdom to burn, kill, and loot for various reasons. And the demon fruit power cultivated by those kingdoms is the kingdom's best external edge. It's just a pity that no genius has appeared in recent generations, including my period. So, the 4 devil fruits stayed here forever. Devil fruits are extremely precious. For hundreds of years, the kingdom only collected more than 20 pieces. So, if it's not a genius, the kingdom will not take it out, unless the kingdom really reaches a desperate moment. However, now that you have appeared, with the ability of your magical space, you might be able to strengthen these 4 devil fruits. Having said this, King Ilo couldn't help but be proud of EC. You have been smart since you were a child, and your thinking is similar to that of an adult. In the future, the king's position must be yours. EC, in the future, the treasure house of the kingdom will be open to you at any time. I see the opportunity of founding the country in you. I hope you will not disappoint your father. Hearing this, EC's expression became slightly more serious. Father, my son won't let you down. King Ilo nodded, then pointed to the 2 books on the left side of Devil Fruit. EC also turned his eyes to the left when he saw this. Those 2 are 2 color Haki training manuals. Haki is the potential power possessed by all human beings in this sea. According to the documents handed down from the kingdom, there is a clear explanation. This kind of power is an innate ability, momentum, murderousness, fighting spirit. When you manipulate these invisible feelings, willpower can be turned into a weapon, this powerful force people call it Haki. There are three types of Haki: observation Haki, armament Haki, and Conqueror's Haki. Except for Conqueror's Haki and the highest level observation Haki, ordinary people can acquire this power through practice. You can continue to practice and strengthen, but after a certain limit, you can only improve to a higher level under the extreme state of actual combat. Conqueror's Haki and the highest level observation Haki are both innate and cannot be acquired through practice. Among them, observation Haki of the highest grade is rarer than Conqueror's Haki. According to the description in the data, the highest level observation Haki can even temporarily predict the future, read minds, feel the thoughts of others, change the minds of living beings, and even change the consciousness of living beings. However, I have never seen these as a father, but I have only seen some simple descriptions in the royal family materials. Hearing this, EC's eyes flashed slightly. Although King Ilo had never seen it before, EC knew that these were all real. According to the memory of the past life, Karakuri has the observation Haki who predicts the future. The observation Haki of Red Earl Baroque Redfield is able to read people's hearts and memories. As for the last observation Haki, who feels the thoughts of others, changes the minds of living beings, and even changes the consciousness of living beings. According to the content of the original work, Princess Odoheim of the Fishman Island was born with this type of observation Haki. Moreover, Princess Shirahoshi of the Fishman Island also inherited this type of observation Haki from Princess Odoheim. Aside, King Aloha didn't know what EC was thinking, but continued to speak. In short, Haki is divided into Conqueror's Haki, who have the qualifications of a king and can shock or stun the enemy with their own aura, as well as armament Haki, which can improve defense and attack power, and can touch the entity of the Logia fruit ability, and observation Haki, which can predict the opponent's next move and position. Nowadays, the two-color Haki has always been popularized among the armies in the kingdom, but only 4 army commanders have been successfully cultivated. Most of the rest are difficult to get started, and even if they get started, they are sometimes ineffective when using it. As for Conqueror's Haki, no one in the entire kingdom, including Waifu, has awakened, but you should have a chance. Having said that, King Aloha looked at EC with strong anticipation in his eyes. Then, after talking about the usefulness of these 2 books, King Ilo pointed his finger to the right side of Devil Fruit again. There's a sword on display. 21 workers of the big knife, burial at sea. EC turned his head to look and saw the big sharp knife so quietly displayed on the knife holder. The blade is a straight blade, and there are dark blue patterns on the blade that are like waves in the sea. In addition, the lower scabbard is also decorated with patterns like waves. The owner of this knife was a great swordsman who was famous in the sea 100 years ago. King Iro looked at the tachi displayed on the knife stand and said, according to the records of the royal family, the man who was sent out to sea at that time rescued the old great swordsman for some reason on the way back after purchasing the sea stone. Also, those people brought the old great swordsman back to the kingdom, mainly because they wanted to train some swordsmen for the kingdom. Unfortunately, that great swordsman was really too old, and he passed away not long after. And the sea burial of the big quick knife he wore all his life was kept here by the royal family. After finishing speaking, King Ilo turned to look at EC. Now, these things belong to you. You have walked through so many treasure troves before, and you are indifferent. Presumably, you're also interested in these things. Hearing this, EC nodded without showing any courtesy. With a wave of his little hand, he saw golden ripples rippling slightly on the jade platform. After that, Devil Fruit, Haki's training manual, and the sea burial of the big quick knife disappeared under the package of ripples. Seeing this, King Ilua couldn't help showing a smile, but King Ilua didn't get to the bottom of it either. I saw that Achiku of Iluo country turned around and walked out of the treasure house. Let's go. The treasure trove is over, and I know how you want to go back as soon as possible. Looking at the figure of King Iloa, Issei couldn't help but smile in his heart. Unexpectedly, King Iloa was able to restrain his curiosity and did not ask himself something. Following behind King Ilo, Issei was still thinking about what kind of magical changes those things would have after being transformed into a noble phantasm. Suddenly, Issei also saw a book with a basic swordsmanship training manual beside him. Bending down slightly, he picked up the book and put it in the treasure of the king. Issei left the treasure house of the kingdom behind King Ilo. Outside the treasure palace, Diner and the others hurriedly bowed after seeing King Ilo and Issei appear. Seeing this, King Ilo just waved his hand, then instructed Diner to continue guarding the kingdom's treasure house and left with Issei and the maids. After leaving the treasury of the kingdom, King Iloa was separated from Issei. King Ilo also went to the back garden to have a love affair with Queen Eliza, and Issei couldn't wait to turn those treasures into noble phantasms. So, the two separated and went in different directions. Along the way, Issei quickened his pace and walked towards his bedroom with extreme speed. Unfortunately, the 5-year-old's short legs were too short to move. In the end, Issei let a boba maid hug him and quickly head to the bedroom. Issei, on the other hand, was sitting comfortably on the soft pillow while waiting leisurely and comfortably. 5. Noble Phantasm. The kingdom's follow-up planning not long after arriving at the bedroom. Issei let the maids back out and sat alone on the soft bed. With a thought, golden ripples appeared around Issei. Standing up on the bed, Issei stepped into the golden ripples and instantly disappeared into the bedroom. When Issei's figure reappeared, he had come to an infinite golden chaotic space. Here, countless noble phantasm embryos are floating in the air, and a large number of living noble phantasms can be seen everywhere. Issei didn't need to observe the golden chaotic space, but put his eyes on the few treasures he had just obtained. This golden chaotic space is the space that belongs to the treasure of the king. Here, countless golden noble phantasm embryos float up and down, and the rich golden chaotic air swims freely. After awakening the king's treasure, Issei has come here many times, so Issei is now accustomed to it. Standing in the center of the entire king's treasure space, I saw Issei's little hand wave slightly. After that, 4 devil fruits, 2 Haki training manuals, a basic swordsmanship training manual, and a sea burial with a big quick knife floated in front of Issei. I hope that after the noble phantasm is transformed, it will give me some surprises. After whispering a few words, Issei's mind moved, and the 8 noble phantasm embryos descended from the sky and merged into the 8 treasures. The speed of transformation into noble phantasm was exceptionally fast. In just a few seconds, the 8 treasures were completely transformed into the noble phantasm of the king's treasure. Let me see what changes after the noble phantasm is transformed. His eyes lit up slightly, and then 8 light curtains appeared in front of Issei's eyes. Noble phantasm, paramecia lung fruit, type. Active noble phantasm, type. Consuming noble phantasm, liberation. After eating, you can get the ability to control air conditioning without side effects. Not afraid of sea stone and sea water. You can eat multiple devil fruits. Noble phantasm. Zoan, common species, wild lion fruit, type. Active noble phantasm, type. Consuming noble phantasm, liberation. After eating, it strengthens its own strength, constitution, and resilience, and can transform into a wild lion form and a human beast form without side effects. Noble phantasm. Zoan, common species, cloud elephant fruit, type. Active noble phantasm, type. Consuming noble phantasm, liberation. After eating, strengthen one's own strength, physique, and resilience, and transform in a cloud-like form and human beast form, without side effects. Noble phantasm. Zoan common species Tibetan mastiff fruit, type. Active noble phantasm, type. Consuming noble phantasm, liberation. After eating, strengthen one's own strength, physique, and resilience, and transform into Tibetan mastiff form and human beast form, without side effects. Noble phantasm. Armament Haki training manual, type. passive effective noble phantasm. Type, inherent noble phantasm, liberation. The holder will have a lot of armament Haki practice experience, can actively learn armament Haki, and can quickly get started. Noble phantasm, observation Haki training manual. Type, passive effective noble phantasm. Type, inherent noble phantasm, liberation. The holder will have a lot of observation Haki practice experience, can actively learn observation Haki, and can quickly get started. Noble phantasm, basic swordsmanship training manual. Type, passive effective noble phantasm. Type, fixed noble phantasm, liberation. The holder will have a lot of basic swordsmanship experience, can actively learn basic swordsmanship, and can quickly get started. Noble phantasm, burial at sea. Type, active noble phantasm. Type, fixed noble phantasm, liberation. The holder will obtain the sea burial swordsmanship, and the holder can actively learn the sea burial swordsmanship during the holding period. After watching the 8 light curtains in front of them one by one, EC couldn't help showing joy. Although the 4 devil fruits are just ordinary devil fruits, the side effects can be removed after being transformed into noble phantasms. Speaking of which, I could even make myself a humanoid devil fruit tree if I wanted to. But the development of the kingdom can't be done by one person, so let's use some ordinary fruits to cultivate loyal subordinates. Touching his chin, EC's plans for the 4 devil fruits have already been planned. EC doesn't care if someone eats his devil fruit and then becomes unfaithful, because when devil fruit is transformed into a noble phantasm, this devil fruit will always belong to EC. EC has absolute ownership and control over devil fruit after noble phantasm. If EC rewards others to eat, then if that person is disobedient, EC can take back the rewarded devil fruit with just a thought. That is to say, if others really eat the devil fruit transformed into noble phantasm, EC can also deprive others of devil fruit at any time. In this way, the formation of an army of capable people is not afraid of traitors. After thinking about devil fruit's plan, EC's eyes were once again set on the 3 training manuals and the burial at sea. At this moment, looking at these 4 treasures, EC's eyes flashed with intense joy. TSK, the treasure of the king, YYDS. I didn't expect that my exclusive version of King's Treasure would be so domineering. It's okay to purify the side effects of devil fruit. I didn't expect to have this magical ability. TSK, passively accept the training experience and actively learn powerful swordsmanship. In this way, there is a way for me to improve my strength. I don't like the 4 devil fruits, but 2-color Haki and swordsmanship can still be learned. Not to mention the sea-burying swordsmanship that belongs to the great swordsman. Basically, as long as I successfully learn it, I will be the 2nd sea-burying swordsman. Even if I can get more swordsmen or great swordsman swords, I can gather the strengths of 100 schools and walk out of my own way of kendo. Excited heart, trembling hands. At this moment, EC was really shocked by the role of his own exclusive King's Treasure. Who, breathing out a heavy breath, EC forced himself to calm down. Before, he had been restless all the time, but now he was shocked beyond measure. Under the ups and downs, EC could only rely on his strong mental strength in 2 lifetimes to force himself to calm down. Looking around again at the various noble phantasms in the King's Treasure space, EC turned around and left the King's Treasure. Sitting cross-legged on the soft bed, EC began to think about the next plan. First of all, these 4 devil fruit EC will not be eaten. After all, they are too ordinary. Secondly, armament Haki is too young now, and his physique is not up to standard, so he can't practice. However, observation Haki and swordsmanship can still be practiced by themselves. Before getting the devil fruit ability that he liked, swordsmanship and Haki were his main means of fighting the enemy. Then, the 4 devil fruits can't be kept in the treasure of their king all the time, and they need to find someone who is loyal and talented as soon as possible to eat them. Thinking of this, EC suddenly remembered the team of elite soldiers from the kingdom that he sent out when he was 3 years old. At that time, after EC found out that the world he was in was the world of pirates, he immediately sent a team of elite soldiers to go out to sea. And the purpose of going to sea is to go to the ancient sleeping town in New World to find that magical beast, devil fruit. However, 2 years have passed, and there's still no news, and I don't know if it is dead, or defected, or whether it has not been found. Squinting his eyes slightly, EC first left the divergent thinking pioneer in his mind and continued to think about the previous plan. I thought before that the 4 devil fruits should be used as soon as possible. So the last thing to do is to enhance the overall strength of the kingdom. It takes strength to start the kingdom of Helios. Not only high-end combat power is needed, but also the basic and middle-level military power that the kingdom itself must have. PS. Kingdom military for short. High-end military force is the power to stun the sea. If you have the powerful force of Whitebeard when you are young, even if the kingdom is founded, no one will dare to offend. However, the current self is only just starting out, and even if he cultivates, he cannot instantly become a strong person. Therefore, the kingdom's military power is what is most lacking now. With the power of the kingdom, it can be guaranteed that the incoming enemy can be blocked. With these 4 devil fruits, and even after more devil fruits are obtained in the future, the kingdom's power will gradually increase. In addition, Wang Jibao's 3 training manuals are also a way to cultivate strong people. The 3 manuals were transcribed in batches, and then they were all converted into noble phantasms, and then released to the army. Then, those soldiers and generals in the army can better practice 2-color Haki and swordsmanship. In this way, as long as it develops step by step, the overall combat power of the kingdom will be greatly improved. Even if there are enough noble phantasms in the swordsmanship training manual, he can turn the entire kingdom into a kingdom of swordsmen. At that time, a large number of various schools of swordsmanship will be scrambling to appear. And he can also collect those genres of swordsmanship, gather the strengths of hundreds of schools, and walk out his own way of kendo. After thinking a little about the future plans, EC's eyes were very clear. What people fear most is not having a clear goal. Now, EC has his own plan, although not detailed enough. However, the most basic path is already in front of us, and all we need to do now is to start taking action step by step. In a step-by-step process, gradually improve your plan. Become stronger, cultivate the strong, cultivate the whole people, found a country. 6. The first contact with cultivation, the affirmation of King Eloah, the kingdom of Helios, inside the prince's bedroom. At this moment, EC was sitting cross-legged on the bed, carefully comprehending the cultivation experience that was flowing in his mind all the time. After thinking about his own plan, EC began to try to practice. However, EC did not practice swordsmanship from the very beginning, but quietly realized the information from the 2-color Haki training manual and the basic swordsmanship training manual in his mind. The 3 training manuals are passively effective noble phantasms, which means that as long as they are placed in the king's treasure, they will automatically take effect. Unconsciously, the sky slowly darkened. Your Highness, with the sound of soft shouts. EC, who was immersed in the feeling, slowly came back to his senses. A confused look flashed in his eyes, and soon he regained a clear look. What's the matter? Looking at the head, maid Linda, standing at the door, EC asked slightly. Your Highness. Seeing EC wake up, Linda hurriedly walked into the bedroom and bowed to EC. It's already dinner time. Your Highness only had breakfast during the day. Your Majesty and the Queen were worried, so they moved up the dinner time. Huh? Slightly stunned, EC turned his head and glanced out the floor-to-ceiling window, only to see that the sky had dimmed slightly. Is it already night so soon? Reaching out his hand to touch his stomach, it is true that some hunger has begun to come. Leaving the soft bed, EC walked out of the bedroom towards the royal dining palace. Not long after, EC walked into the palace and saw King Ilo and Queen Eliza. Father, mother. After saying hello softly, EC found a seat and sat down. My lovely little EC, I heard from a maid that you don't seem to have lunch yet. Seeing EC, Queen Eliza immediately reached out and pinched EC's little face. Hearing this, EC smiled slightly and said, Empress Mother, I was addicted to cultivation before and forgot for a while. Cultivation. At this moment, King Elaw, who heard EC's words, was slightly taken aback. Have you started to practice what I gave you today? Well, it's not very accurate to say that it is cultivation. EC pondered for a while. I should be comprehending. Father, I found that my magical space has other uses. If devil fruit is turned into a noble phantasm, the side effects of devil fruit can be eliminated. Secondly, after the 2 previous Haki training manuals were turned into noble phantasms, I was able to comprehend the mysteries of Haki all the time. After hearing EC's words, King Ilua suddenly took a deep breath. Hey, it's actually able to remove the side effects of devil fruit. If this is the case, is it possible to form an army of demon fruit power without side effects? Speaking of this, King Ilua couldn't help but tremble in his heart, as if he saw the day when the kingdom really rose and resounded through the sea. No! Suddenly, King Ilua narrowed his eyes slightly. Devil fruit without side effects is too outrageous. If someone eats the devil fruit, which has no side effects, if the betrayal of the kingdom is spread to the sea, the kingdom will become the delicious pastry of those wolves. EC smiled lightly when he heard the words and said, Father, don't worry. I can absolutely control devil fruit, which is turned into a noble phantasm. Even if it is eaten by someone, I can remotely deprive it of the devil fruit at any time and be reborn into my magical space. Oh, King Ilua glanced at EC in surprise, not expecting EC to have this kind of ability. It seems that you already have the means to deal with it. From now on, you could do your own business. In the end, being a father is nothing but an ordinary king. You are smart and precocious, and you can consider many things. In this case, you will handle these things yourself in the future, and the kingdom will cooperate with you whoever needs help. If a new devil fruit is found in the kingdom, it will be delivered to you. If you need help for your father, speak up as soon as possible. King Ilo's words are equivalent to giving EC considerable power. It can even be said that EC can now use a part of the king's rights. Looking at King Ilo in front of him, EC couldn't help but sigh. Although King Ilo likes to be jealous, he is indeed sober in the world, and he has considerable courage. Father, my son needs your help with a few things now. After hearing that King Ilo had delegated power, EC became rude. Hearing this, King Ilo became interested. Oh? Tell me, on the side. Queen Eliza also looked at EC with great interest. Although Queen Eliza would not interfere with the affairs of the kingdom, she was able to listen in. Looking at the interested faces of King Ilo and Queen Eliza, EC didn't hide anything. Although he is only 5 years old now, but with the wisdom and precociousness that he has shown since childhood, it is not a problem to say something that is not in this age group. Besides, in the Sharingan legend of fighting in the ninja village next door, those little friends were all 5 or 6 years old and shocked the world. As a pirate world of the same grade, it should be understandable to be a little precocious. Cough, cough. After coughing twice, EC slightly retracted his divergent thoughts. After pondering for a while, EC said some of his thoughts. Father, if the kingdom wants to start a country, high-end force is very important, but mid-range force and local force are also necessary. High-end force, I am confident that it can be achieved, but it will take a certain amount of time. As for the mid-range force, if there is devil fruit, it can quickly cultivate the mid-range force. As for low-end force, Boyer believes that this is the foundation of the foundation, and it is a very important part. Now we are in the era of the great pirates. The words of Roger, the pirate king, before his death have made countless people go out to sea and become sinful pirates. Although the kingdom is in a remote sea area, it will definitely be discovered by pirates as the number of pirates continues to increase. At that time, if you only rely on the strong men of the kingdom, or just rely on the kingdom's army, it will still not be enough insurance. Now, the kingdom is booming, resources are abundant, and the treasury is full. Now is a good time to vigorously develop the kingdom. So, the child has some ideas, and I hope the father can weigh it. First, the child suggested that the father and the king should set up schools across the country to provide free education and collectively cultivate the descendants of the kingdom's people. Teach them literacy, Teach them a skill, teach them morality, and teach them loyalty to the royal family. Second, the boy hopes that the father can let some people transcribe the two-color Haki training manual and the basic swordsmanship training manual. The more you copy, the better. The child can turn all the copied manuals into noble phantasms. After that, all the two-color Haki training manual noble phantasm and a part of the basic swordsmanship training manual noble phantasm were sent to the royal army. With the noble phantasm that pervades anytime, anywhere, I believe there will be more experts in the kingdom's army. Even the entire kingdom's army may become stronger as a whole, thus greatly improving the security of the kingdom. Furthermore, if all the soldiers of the royal army are master two-color Haki, then it will be a little safer to break into the comm belt. As for the remaining part of the basic swordsmanship training manual, all of them will be sent to various schools, so that those children can start learning from an early age. After laying the foundation, guide them to develop their own swordsmanship, or collect swordsmanship secrets and turn them into noble phantasms and send them to the school for learning. As long as the above two things are done in this era of great pirates, maybe the kingdom can transform into the kingdom of swordsmen. At that time, everyone in the kingdom will have a certain amount of self-protection. Even if there are pirates, the people will be able to survive until the arrival of the kingdom's army. Having said so much in one breath, EC paused slightly, waiting for King Ilua's reaction. At this time, King Ilua's eyes were shining, and looking at EC was like looking at a rare treasure. I didn't expect you to have such an idea. Achaku of Ireland waved his hand and said loudly, do it all. Building a school, transcribing manuals, distributing manuals, cultivating the whole army, and cultivating the whole people, all must be done. Tomorrow I will arrange to set up schools all over the kingdom. Ha ha ha. The kingdom of swordsmen. Ha ha. All the people are soldiers. Excited and delighted, King didn't even say the word husband and directly called himself my name. You know, King Ilo has always paid attention to the literal meaning of his words. But now King Ilo completely ignores these irrelevant things when he is excited. Seeing the excited look of King Ilo, EC also smiled slightly. There were golden ripples in the air next to him, and then the little hand reached in, and when he reached out again, there were already 3 more training manuals in his hand. Father, these 3 are the training manuals that have been transformed into treasures. While speaking, EC placed the 3 training manual noble phantasms on the table. After you ask someone to transcribe a copy, these 3 training manuals will be sent back to my bedroom first. After that, the copied backup will be used as a template for multiple transcriptions. After hearing EC's words, King Ilo slowly calmed down. He stretched out his hand and gently picked up an armament Haki training manual noble phantasm. Immediately, one after another, messages of comprehension appeared in his mind. On the side, Queen Eliza also picked up a basic swordsmanship training manual noble phantasm, and also felt the information and insights in her mind. God bless my kingdom of Helios. The thought came to the heads of King Ilo and Queen Eliza while stroking the noble phantasm of the training manual on their hands. After putting the 3 training manual noble phantasms back together, King Law said to EC, "Don't worry, it won't delay your cultivation." 7 changes after 1 month after listening to King Ilo's words. EC smiled lightly and started talking about other things. Father, these 4 devil fruits cannot stay here forever. So, I also asked the father and king to find 4 young people who are loyal to the kingdom and have some talent for the child. At that time, the boy will distribute 4 devil fruits, so that devil fruits can play their role as soon as possible. Hearing this, King Ilua couldn't help but frown slightly. Don't you eat devil fruit? You must know that these devil fruits have no side effects. EC shook his head and said, "These 4 devil fruits are too ordinary. My child doesn't like them." Besides, the boy sent someone to go out to sea 2 years ago to find the devil fruit that he liked at that moment. It's just that there has been no news now, and it should not be found. That's it. King Ilua nodded lightly and didn't say much. He believed that EC was so smart and must have his own ideas, so Wei Wei asked and stopped interfering. That being the case, The father will find it for you as soon as possible. EC nodded when he heard the words. Yeah, after seeing the father and son finish talking, Queen Eliza instructed the maids to serve the food. Okay, the matter is over. Let's start the meal. After the three of them had a happy dinner, EC returned to his bedroom again. Sitting on the rocking chair in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, EC looked at the bright moon outside the window, and a fire of hope ignited in his heart. Let's start practicing tomorrow. Get stronger as soon as possible and make yourself truly stand in this world. The inner whisper sounded slightly, and EC found that most of his original anxiety had disappeared. Sure enough, the reason for all the anxiety is because of his lack of strength. At night, the bright moon is in the sky. Your Highness, it's time to take a bath and rest. Just as EC was staring at the moon, a young and beautiful maid came behind EC and spoke softly. Hearing this, EC came back to his senses, got up and left the bedroom to the bathing palace not far away. Walking into the palace, you will see the warm water that has been prepared in the bathing pool. Under the service of the maids, EC took off his clothes and walked into the bathing pool. Leaning his head in the middle of a beautiful maid's white meat bun, EC let several beautiful maids wash his body. After a while, EC, who returned to the bedroom after bathing, fell asleep peacefully. In this world, there are no TV or computer games at night. Therefore, EC rests very early every day. In the early morning, when the sun shone on the wide and soft bed, EC slowly woke up. Get up, brush your teeth, wash your face, change your clothes under the service of the maids. Finally, when EC finished his breakfast, he saw Linda, the head maid, walking over with the 3 training manual noble phantasms that she had given to King Ilo last night. Your Highness, this was sent by your Majesty. Linda walked to the table and gently placed the 3 training manual treasures on the table. It seems that Father Wong asked someone to transcribe it overnight last night. Seeing this, EC just waved his little hand gently. A golden ripple appeared, and the 3 training manual treasures returned to the treasure of the king. Linda. EC looked at Linda after taking back the training manual noble phantasm. Hearing this, the head maid Linda hurriedly bowed and responded, Your Highness, what's the matter? Well, nothing major. EC shook his head and said, Wait a minute and tell me, and all my meals will be delivered to my bedroom in the future. It's nothing. I won't go so far to come here for dinner. After saying that, EC got up and left his seat and walked outside the palace. Yes, Your Highness. Behind him, Linda bowed to EC and then hurried to inform the others. EC walked slowly back to his bedroom area and then came to a wide square next to the bedroom. Here is a training ground that EC has prepared for himself. Here, you can find all kinds of weapons, all kinds of exercise equipment, and so on. A person walked to the weapon rack alone, pulled out a special wooden sword, and went to the dummy to start practicing. Thorn split, point lift pick collapse cut, chop wipe cut frame press. With a steady stream of insights from the basic swordsmanship training manual noble phantasm, EC's basic swordsmanship has become more and more standardized. With a 5-year-old body and the blood of an ordinary person, armament Haki must not be able to cultivate. The physical strength is not enough, so armament Haki EC can only give up temporarily. EC has his own training plan, and now, the most important stage is to lay the foundation. So, except for observation Haki, which can be practiced from a young age, everything else can only be started from the basics. 10,000 zhang tall buildings rise from the ground, and the foundation is not solid. Even a great swordsman's swordsmanship perception may not be able to comprehend anything profound. Now, having King's Treasure is equivalent to having a cheating device for cultivation. That continuous cultivation insight is the best teacher, as if he is pointing EC's cultivation all the time. An hour later, EC was tired from swinging his sword with his right hand. After resting for 15 minutes, he switched to his left hand to continue basic swordsmanship. This cycle goes on, and gradually, the morning time passes quietly. Lunch. The dishes are rich and full of nutrition and energy. After lunch, EC rested for a while and walked into a cool palace next to the training ground. Inside the palace, cotton ball ejection devices are placed on all sides. Under the command of EC, more than a dozen maids went to the cotton ball ejection devices in different directions. EC, on the other hand, walked to the center of the palace and tied a black cloth to his head to cover his eyes. As EC signaled to start, a dozen or so maids began to control the cotton ball ejection device and start firing towards EC's location. Although the cotton ball is soft and does not cause any wounds on the body, it can still feel pain when it hits EC under the high-speed ejection. Observation Haki, one of the 3 types of Haki. The 5 senses can be sharpened. Haki can detect the breath of surrounding creatures and emotional changes. It can also be used to predict and avoid danger. The power to feel the voice of the opponent strongly is called Observation Haki. Once you increase this power, you can read the location, number, and actions of enemies that are out of sight in the next instant. Observation Haki has a lot to do with psychology. You need to be calm to ensure use. You cannot use Observation Haki when you are emotional and lose your mind. And now, EC is practicing Observation Haki. However, although there is a steady stream of Haki insights, it still takes some time to get started. A month passed in a flash. This month, there have been brand new changes in the kingdom. Throughout the entire Crown Island, a large number of schools began to gradually enter the construction. After that night, King Ilo held a kingdom meeting the next day and spoke EC's plan at the kingdom meeting. After listening to the plans of EC mentioned by King Ilo, many officials were amazed. Who would have thought that EC, who was only 5 years old, would have such a clear kingdom plan? At the meeting, everyone unanimously approved it, and then the kingdom began to build vigorously. As time passed, and after a month, the whole kingdom knew that the royal family had a genius prince. King Aloha didn't hide anything about EC's contribution and fully announced it as a matter of fact. As a result, the people of the entire kingdom also recognized EC, the prince who served the people and the country. Under the influence of thousands of Ishins across the country, a large number of schools began to be gradually built in various places. The teaching materials of the school have also been launched one after another under the linkage of various kingdom departments. In addition, King Ilua summoned a large number of scholars to transcribe the 2-color Haki training manual and the basic swordsmanship training manual. In 1 month, under the efforts of a lot of manpower, each of the 3 training manuals copied 10,000 copies. P.S. Armament Haki, 10,000 volumes. Observation Haki, 10,000 volumes. Basic swordsmanship, 10,000 volumes. After accumulating 30,000 volumes, EC took a moment to turn all 30,000 training manuals into noble phantasms. Afterwards, the 3 training manuals transformed into noble phantasms were evenly distributed among the 4 kingdom legions under the distribution of King Ilo. That's when the soldiers of the royal army began to worship EC, the unseen prince, after feeling the magic of the noble phantasm. The kingdom is changing with each passing day, and EC himself, after a month of hard work, has also made great progress. In the training ground, cotton balls are ejected into the palace. Boom, boom, bang, bang, bang. I saw that. Inside the palace, there were a total of 40 maids operating the cotton ball ejection device to continuously shoot at EC. Throughout the palace, balls of snow-white cotton balls were constantly flying. In the center of the palace, EC was holding a wooden sword and covering his eyes with a layer of black cloth, constantly dodging the cotton ball's attack. I saw that the cotton balls were about to attack EC, and EC's body flashed away like a prophet. It was impossible to dodge, and the wooden sword in EC's hand could split the cotton balls instantly. At this moment, EC, who was covered with a black cloth and had no sight, was immersed in cultivation. Under the chaotic and irregular cotton ball attack, EC's figure was easy to handle. Ta-ta-tau. However, there was a slight sound of footsteps. Seeing Linda's slight gesture, the maids slowly stopped the movements in their hands. Feeling that there was no cotton ball attack, EC frowned slightly and reached out his hand to undo the black cloth covering his eyes. What happened? As EC's words rang out, Linda quickly stepped forward and answered. His Royal Highness, I dare to disturb you. Please forgive me. Looking at Linda, EC didn't mean to blame him. After all, he knew that Linda wouldn't bother him if nothing happened. Tell me, what's the matter? Hearing the words, Linda said quickly, Your Highness, the team that was sent out to sea has returned, and now that team is waiting in His Highness's training ground. What? Hearing Linda's words, EC couldn't help but be slightly taken aback. Then, as if remembering something, EC couldn't help showing excitement. Throwing down the wooden sword and black cloth in his hand, he walked quickly towards the training ground. Seeing this, Linda quickly followed. 8. The returning team, the magical beast Devil Fruit brought back Tread Tata Tau. Rapid footsteps sounded, and EC's figure gradually appeared in the training ground from far near. At this time, in the training ground, 11 soldiers of the Royal Army with somewhat tattered clothes were standing upright in the shade of a tree. The 11 elite soldiers of the kingdom were the same team that EC sent out to sea when he was 3 years old. As for their standing postures, it was a reference to the standing postures of some armies in previous lives. When he was 3 years old, EC thought of a Eudemon's fruit in the sleeping town of New World in his anxiety. So, out of nowhere, EC went to the kingdom's army. There, EC went through layers of selection and selected 11 people to form an elite team. During the selection period, because some habits have not had time to change. In that selection, some of the discipline of the army in the previous life and some standing postures were also brought over. In the end, the 4 army commanders directly adopted these things after discovering that they could manage the army more effectively and concisely. Therefore, nowadays, the discipline within the kingdom's army is very clear. Each of the 4 legions is full of vigor, and the overall look is very full of energy. At this moment, as EC's figure got closer and closer, the 11 soldiers of the Royal Army couldn't help but get excited. Apocalypse Team, Captain Aldo, I have seen His Royal Highness. Apocalypse Squad, Soldier Adine, I have seen His Highness. Apocalypse Squad, Soldier Pius, I have seen His Highness. Apocalypse Squad, Soldier Silva, I have seen His Highness. Apocalypse Squad, Soldier Solaboon, I have seen His Highness. Apocalypse Squad, Soldier Lagaish, I have seen His Highness. Apocalypse Squad, Soldier Bennett, have seen His Highness. Apocalypse Squad, Soldier Benoni, have seen His Highness. Apocalypse Squad, Soldier Levert, I have seen His Royal Highness. Apocalypse Squad, Soldier Felina, have seen His Highness. Apocalypse Squad, Soldier Damien, I have seen His Highness. Okay. Looking at the 11 members of the Apocalypse team whose clothes were somewhat tattered, but still full of energy, EC nodded excitedly. Warriors, welcome back. Thank you, Your Highness. The 11 Tyankee squad roared in unison, then quickly calmed down and slowly calmed down. At this time, Aldo, the captain of the Apocalypse team, stepped forward and took out a small box from his arms. His Royal Highness, this subordinate did not live up to His Highness's order and took back the devil fruit that His Highness needed. Looking at the small box handed in front of him, EC's heart was a little excited. Reaching out his hand to take the small box, EC did not open it immediately, but spoke to everyone in the Apocalypse team. It was a huge undertaking, and it took 2 years for you to live up to my expectations and bring it back. Of course, the most gratifying thing to me is that you all returned to the kingdom safely. For 2 years, you have been wandering outside, and now I will give you a long vacation. You, for half a year, spend a good time with your family. In addition, everyone will reward 10 million Baileys each, a set of manor in the first ring of Crown Heights. Finally, I will grant you the title of Fearless Warrior. In the future, you'll be a special team of independent kingdoms. Hearing EC's reward, the 11 Apocalypse team members were overjoyed. Thank you, Your Highness. EC nodded, then turned to Linda beside him and said, Linda, take them to reunite with their families first. In addition, let the other departments of the kingdom confirm what I just said. Yes, Your Highness. Hearing this, Linda responded quickly. Then, under the watchful eyes of EC, Linda left the palace with 11 Apocalypse team members. After everyone left, Ian couldn't wait to return to the bedroom. Opening the small box, a dark purple devil fruit with a spiral pattern appeared in EC's eyes. "Oh, it's really that devil fruit," whispered, accompanied by a burst of golden ripples. The devil fruit in his hand instantly disappeared into EC's hand. When it reappeared, it had turned into a golden devil fruit. Noble phantasm, Zoan, bat fruit, phantom beast, vampire form, type. Active noble phantasm, type. Consuming noble phantasm, liberation after eating, strengthen one's own strength, physique, and resilience. Transform into bat form and human beast form. Have super fast speed, can unfold bat wings to fly, can transform into thousands of bats, but unfortunately absorb blood essence. Performs self-healing physical or restore youth without side effects. It's it. Looking at the light curtain in front of him, EC's expression suddenly became excited. Zoan, bat fruit, phantom beast, vampire form. The devil fruit that was eaten by Red Earl Baroric Redfield. Excited, EC couldn't help laughing a few times. Ha ha! However, EC quickly stopped after laughing a few times. Looking at the devil fruit in front of him, EC opened his mouth and ate the devil fruit cleanly. After the noble phantasm is transformed, even the unpleasant side effects have been eliminated. It feels good and the taste is refreshing. However, speaking of it, Sleeping Ancient Town seems to have an illusionary beast-like raccoon fruit. It seems that they didn't find it, or they were already eaten by that pad-on. However, no matter what, it's pretty good to get this Eudemon's devil fruit now. With it, I can get stronger faster. Whispering, EC's body began to change. First, a pair of blood-red wings grew behind him. Second, the two teeth become sharp and rapidly elongated at the same time. With pointy ears, an evil mystery slowly emerged around EC. After the transformation, EC's original royal aristocratic temperament became particularly obvious. It gives people an elegant, terrifying, mysterious feeling, which makes people afraid and at the same time can't help but show a trace of yearning. Feeling the growing strength and physique within his body, EC's eyes couldn't help but flicker. How the figure disappeared in place in an instant, and when it appeared, it was already in a corner of the bedroom. SHHH, as EC's figure kept flashing, gradually, the whole bedroom was filled with afterimages at a faster and faster speed. Finally, EC stopped at the beginning, feeling the slump of his physical strength, and his face couldn't help but feel helpless. It takes a lot of physical strength. Even if this devil fruit strengthens my physique, it won't work for a while. However, the remaining physical strength can still test other abilities. The bat wing behind him shook slightly, and EC was suspended in midair, controlling his body to fly continuously in the bedroom. EC found that just flying doesn't consume much physical strength. Then, after getting familiar with the flying ability, EC swooped down sharply. Whoa. With a rapid dive, there was a screeching sound. Immediately after, when he was about to hit the ground, EC suddenly turned into countless blood-red bats and scattered away. The blood-red bats flew around the entire bedroom and finally reunited over the bed and became EC again. Falling on the soft and elastic bed, EC silently pondered the ability of his devil fruit. This ability, a lot like Logia's elementalization. Simply put, this devil fruit is more of a speed type, not as versatile as Kaido's blue dragon fruit, abbreviation. In general, this vampire fruit has the abilities of speed, blood-sucking, self-healing, bat wings, and thousands of bats. After pondering for a while, EC lay on his back on the bed and summoned his own attribute light curtain. Treasure of the King, Helios EC, 5 years old, combat strength, G lieutenant level, physique, ordinary people ability, swordsmanship, basic, Haki, seeing and hearing color, low level, devil fruit, vampire fruit, low level, speed, blood-sucking, self-healing, bat wings, thousands of bats, noble phantasm. Burial at the sea with the big fast sword, swordsmanship at sea burial. 2-color Haki training manual. Basic swordsmanship training manual. I didn't expect that my strength has reached the lieutenant level. Looking at the attribute light curtain in front of him, EC's eyes flashed with light. It seems that it is because of this vampire fruit. However, although the combat strength has reached the captain's level, but the actual combat experience is insufficient, it is still easy for people to seize the opportunity to kill. It seems that it is necessary to increase the cultivation of some actual combat experience. Next, the focus of training will focus on swordsmanship, physical training, observation haki, and the opening of devil fruit. The basic swordsmanship has been stabilized, and the next step is to slowly understand the sea burial swordsmanship. The swordsmanship insight of the great swordsman is really exciting. As the last whisper fell, EC, who had consumed a lot of physical strength because of the test fruit, unknowingly fell asleep. The attribute light curtain in front of him disappeared automatically. Gradually, in the bedroom, only EC's breathing was left. Bedtime always passes quickly. During this period, the maids carefully cleaned up EC's body and put it back in the bedroom. Because the maids are not malicious, EC's observation haki also has no warning. She slept soundly until the next day when the sun fell on the earth. EC, who was woken up by hunger, sat idly on the bed. Under the service of the maids, EC's stomach growled as he brushed his teeth, washed his face, and put on his clothes. Finally, after the chefs brought a delicious breakfast, EC started eating. P.S. Strength level. For Emperor/Admiral/SS, Admiral Alternate/Emperor Vice/SS, Elite Vice Admiral/S, Vice Admiral/A, Rear Admiral/B, Commodore/C, Colonel/D, Lieutenant Colonel/E, Major/F, Lieutenant/G, Scholar/H9, the son of the 4 commanders of the Royal Army, hiccup, so full. Sitting on the back chair, EC touched his stomach and hiccuped. Today's breakfast is extraordinarily large. It may be because the phantom beasts have improved their physique, or it may be because they consumed too much last night. In short, the amount of food for breakfast today is several times higher than before, and all of them are sea animal meat with high energy. Sitting on the stool and resting for a while, when his stomach didn't feel so bloated, EC left and walked towards the training ground. Standing in the middle of the training ground, EC was in deep thought with the big sharp knife in his hand. The vampire fruit doesn't provide a powerful physique like the blue dragon fruit. However, the super speed and other abilities of the vampire fruit are also very good. For me, the increase in physique and strength provided by the vampire fruit is enough now, and I just need to develop the vampire fruit well. Maybe I can make my body reach the standard early so I can practice armament haki. In his mind, his own information was simply sorted out. After that, EC slowly closed his eyes and started today's practice. EC, who was holding a big, quick knife and standing at the sea with his eyes closed, gradually fell into a state of comprehension. How a cold light flashed, and the big sharp knife sea burial in the hands of EC, who had closed his eyes, swung violently. Under the sunlight, it seemed as if a ray of light appeared in a flash. In his mind, along with the liberation of noble phantasm and burial at sea, endless kendo experience was continuously integrated into EC's head. One knife flow split sea. One knife flow breaking waves. One knife flow rapid current. One knife flow raging waves. As the sea burial knife waved, the air in the training ground became more and more humid. Vaguely, the maids standing outside the training ground seemed to hear the sound of tidal waves. However, as the maids listened carefully, they found that they couldn't hear anything, and everything was like a hallucination. For a long time, the training ground fell into tranquility again. EC slowly opened his eyes, and there seemed to be a flash of light in his eyes at this moment. The golden ripples reappeared, and I saw that the treasure house and sea burial in EC's hands slowly merged into the treasure of the king. The swordsmanship of a great swordsman cannot be mastered in one day. Understand a little a day. Take your time. It's okay to go too far. Shaking his head, EC took a deep breath as he felt the dense kendo insights in his mind. I was careless. I didn't expect that after the liberation of noble phantasm and burial at sea, De Jianhao's lifelong Kendo insights would be integrated into his mind. In this way, if you can't understand his Kendo perception, then the content of Kendo perception that keeps rolling in your mind during practice will hinder your own cultivation. Therefore, now EC can only slowly understand it bit by bit and use it for his own use. Moreover, EC frowned and felt the feeling when he was buried at sea with a big sharp knife before. That kind of feeling, EC always has an illusion that is not very smooth. Maybe it's the habits of my previous life. Maybe it's the cognition of my previous life. EC always felt a little awkward about using a weapon like Itachi to call it swordsmanship. Although the world of One Piece does not distinguish between swords and swords, all are collectively referred to as swordsmanship, but EC is still not used to it. TSK. Shaking his head slightly, EC suppressed himself by not being used to it. Now that I have embarked on this path, I have to persevere even if I am not used to it. Also, EC remembered that the Grand Line had a kingdom of Asker, where there was a real sword. After I go to sea, I will go to the kingdom of Asker, and then I will take the 7-star sword and use it myself. Next, EC suspended today's swordsmanship practice and started to practice other things. Physical exercise, observation Haki exercise, devil fruit development. Over time, EC can clearly feel the daily changes in his body. With a powerful vampire fruit, EC finds his physique growing day by day. Every day, I repeat swordsmanship training, physical training, Haki training, and fruit development. Before I knew it, 2 months passed quietly. On this day, when EC had just finished his swordsmanship practice, the sound of footsteps interrupted EC's next practice. Stopping his movements, EC turned his head and looked outside the training ground. I saw that King Ilo was walking towards his position with 4 teenagers. I have seen my father. Seeing King Ilo, EC put down the sea burial knife in his hand and bowed to King Ilo. Hearing this, King Iloa smiled slightly. Today, the entire kingdom of Helios is constantly undergoing qualitative changes. As the king, he looked at the kingdom as if the days were one day at a time. The whole person became extremely happy, and even a smile appeared on the face of King Ilo from time to time. During this time, EC has transformed a large number of 2-color Haki and basic swordsmanship training manual noble phantasms. Before the academy was built, all these manual noble phantasms were distributed to the royal army by King Ilo. After a period of fermentation, now, a large number of high-level and elite soldiers in the entire kingdom army have mastered 2-color Haki and profound basic swordsmanship. The overall strength of the 4 armies of the kingdom has increased several times. In addition, when the royal army patrols the kingdom's waters, it can more easily deal with some pirate groups that have strayed into the kingdom's waters. Not only that, the casualties of the soldiers of the royal army performing various tasks within the Calm Belt have also been greatly reduced. EC. These 4 are the heirs of the 4 legion commanders. Looking at EC, King Iloa pointed at the 4 teenagers behind him. You said before that you would train a few talents, and you started the kingdom test for your father. These 4 have been with the kingdom's army since childhood and have experienced a little tempering. Outstanding in the kingdom test. Now, they are the talents chosen for the father. As the words of King Iloa fell, the 4 teenagers hurriedly bowed to EC and saluted. Dylan, I have seen your highness. Ellie, I have seen your highness. She Mastiff, I have seen your highness. Orton, I have seen your highness. Listening to the words of the 4 teenagers, EC looked at it slightly and nodded slightly without leaving a trace. About these 4 people, EC has heard a few more or less. These 4 people, born in the same year, are all 4 years older than EC. Moreover, during these growing years, EC was not all anxious every day. From time to time, I will also go to learn about various things in the kingdom. Therefore, EC also knew something about these 4 teenagers. Dylan, 9 years old, born in January, the eldest son of Diner, the commander of the Eastern Army of the Royal Army. Eli, 9 years old, born in March, the only son of Abner, the commander of the Southern Army of the Royal Army. He Mastiff, 9 years old, born in June, the third son of Hebrew, the commander of the Western Army of the Kingdom Army. Orton, 9 years old, born in September, the second son of Austin, commander of the Northern Army of the Royal Army. All four were born the same year, and they have shown great talent since childhood. Moreover, since last year, these four people have already begun to practice within the Royal Army. Get up. EC smiled lightly, looked at the four people who had been bowing and saluting, and said, "Thank you, Your Highness." Hearing this, the four Dylans could not help straightening their waists, looking at EC with a little nervousness and a little fanaticism. For EC, the four also learned a lot during this period. They knew that most of the changes within the kingdom and within the kingdom's army came from EC's hands. That magical manual Noble Phantasm was also used by the four Dylans. At that moment, after feeling that magical Noble Phantasm, EC, who had never met before, became extremely mysterious and tall in the eyes of the four Dylans. Especially after knowing that the top four after the kingdom test were able to meet the mysterious EC. The four Dylans couldn't help but try their best to defeat one opponent after another. In the end, the four won the top four, and today finally met the mysterious Prince EC. When they came to the training ground, the four Dylans felt the sharpness of EC's swordsmanship from a distance. That momentum, even if they were separated by a certain distance, made the skin of the four of them feel a little tingling. Children of soldiers have worshipped the strong since childhood. And for EC, who is both powerful and full of mystery, unconsciously, the hearts of Dylan's four people's admiration gradually turned into a color of admiration. EC, there are other things to deal with for the father, and the four of them will be handed over to you. After seeing EC and Dylan getting to know each other, King Ilo said a word and left the training ground. Seeing that the figure of King Ilo disappeared, EC's eyes were also placed on the four Dylans. Feeling the gaze coming from him, the four Dylans also stood up straighter. "Don't be nervous." With a slight smile, EC could feel the tension of the four in front of him. "I think you should also know the purpose of this kingdom test." Hearing that, Dylan, as the older brother of the four, who was a few months older, hurriedly replied, "Yes, His Majesty the King said that in the future we will study behind His Highness." EC nodded lightly and said, "Well, what the father said is right. You will be by my side in the future. As long as your strength improves, you will inherit the position of the commander of the Fourth Army of the Kingdom. You should know that the position of Legion Commander is not hereditary. Without the strength to convince the public, even if you are the heirs of the current Legion Commanders, you cannot inherit the position of Legion Commander. And now you stand out in the Kingdom test. It also proves your own talent. So you have this chance." 10C Circle Calendar 1508, a kingdom of great changes. Listening to EC's words, Dylan and the others knew that the opportunity for them and others to improve their strength might be coming. The four of them listened to EC's words quietly, but EC could still feel the slightly nervous mood of the four of them. Looking at Dylan's appearance, EC didn't say much. After all, the loyalty of the four is needless to say, and the four have a little talent, which is a good seedling for cultivation. With the slightest golden ripples in the air, 8 books and 4 devil fruits appeared in the air. The four of Dylan looked at the thing floating in the air, and their eyes could not help but light up slightly. Seeing this, EC nodded and said, "You should have seen or even used these 8 books. So, you should be familiar with what they are. Yes, these 8 books are the 2-color Haki training manual Noble Phantasm. From now on, they are yours alone. Furthermore, these 4 are the secret treasures of the sea, the devil fruit. From left to right, in order, Paramecia lung fruit, Zoan wild lion fruit, Zoan Tibetan mastiff fruit, Zoan cloud elephant fruit. These are the rewards for your kingdom test this time. Eat the cold fruit, and you can gain the power to control the cold air. If you develop it to a high level, you can even freeze the sea. And the other 3 Zoan devil fruit, after eating, can strengthen their own strength, physique, resilience, and can also change their form." Listening to the words that EC kept introducing, the 4 of them couldn't help showing a hint of longing in their eyes. The 4 came from the army, And when they were young people, it was normal to have a desire for something that could enhance their strength. However, the four also knew that this was EC's thing, so they suppressed their emotions despite their desire. Since childhood, the four of them have been educated by their families, and they must sacrifice all their loyalty to the kingdom and the royal family. Therefore, although the four were eager, they did not dare to say anything until EC did not fully confirm the reward. Seeing this, EC slightly nodded his head. EC was very satisfied with the reaction of the four. Although eager, he restrained himself and did not make the slightest move. As the future king of the kingdom of Helios, even though EC is usually approachable, in fact, EC is very domineering. You can only get what the king gives you. If the king doesn't give you, then you can't covet. People have emotions and desires, and for babies, they will subconsciously show desire and other emotions. EC can understand this, so EC doesn't care. However, if the baby belongs to EC, then you can show desire. However, if EC is not rewarded, then you cannot covet it. Now, you start to freely choose the reward this time. Looking at the four Dylans, EC said, 8 two-color Haki training manuals. Each of you has 2, so you don't need to think about it. However, devil fruit is related to your future development, so you can discuss it with each other. Hearing this, Dylan and the four showed joy on their faces, thanked EC, and discussed it briefly. In the end, Dylan ate the cold fruit, and Avery ate the wild lion fruit. She-Mastiff ate the Tibetan Mastiff fruit, and Orton ate the cloud elephant fruit. The four of them ate the fruit they had negotiated, but found that devil fruit was not as bad as rumored. Seeing the doubtful expressions on Dylan and the others' faces, EC couldn't help but smile. Are you wondering why the taste is different from the rumored one? Hearing this, the four Dylan were slightly startled, but they didn't expect that EC would know what they and others were thinking. Seeing this, EC didn't wait for Dylan and others to ask anything, but explained it directly. You will follow me in the future, and you will even become the Legion commander of the kingdom in the future. So, I can also explain it to you. My ability is special. After my ability purifies devil fruit, it can remove the side effects of devil fruit. So, the devil fruit you eat has no side effects. That is to say, in addition to not being unpalatable, there is no fear of sea water and sea stone. It means that you have a special ability without side effects than others. Hearing EC's words, Dylan's faces showed shock. Immediately afterwards, the four became more worshipful towards EC. They completely believed EC's words. After all, EC didn't need to lie to them about these things. Therefore, at this moment, the four people's worship of EC became more and more fanatical. Originally, EC's series of events, Manual Noble Phantasm, and Astonishing Strength convinced the four of them. Now, he still has such a magical ability, which makes Dylan and others feel the mystery of EC more and more. Many thanks to His Highness for giving such a treasure. We will definitely live up to His Highness's expectations. Under the shock, the four of them said something like an oath to EC in unison. I remember. Hearing this, EC smiled lightly and said, Then, starting from tomorrow, you can follow me to practice. As ordered, Dylan and the four responded quickly when they heard EC's order. From that day on, in the training ground where EC was, in addition to EC, there are also 4 more figures of hard work. Under the guidance and leadership of EC, everyone entered a state of frenetic cultivation. Time, like quicksand between the fingers, cannot be grasped. Day by day, before you know it, the time has come to the sea circle calendar 1508. In the past 2 years, the entire kingdom of Helios has undergone tremendous changes. During this time, schools in various parts of the kingdom were continuously built and then put into use. A large number of young children and teenagers have studied and practiced in the school. Not only that, under EC's suggestion, some schools even opened adult classes. In other words, adults in the kingdom can also go to the school to study. During this time, the Kingdom Army has a large number of training manual noble phantasms. The 4th Army of the Kingdom has been completely reborn. All the soldiers of the Royal Army have mastered basic swordsmanship. Even some talented soldiers walked out of their own kendo. In addition, the popularity of two-color Haki has basically covered all soldiers. In an entire kingdom army, more than half of the soldiers have completely mastered the two-color Haki. Although it is only used by the most superficial two-color Haki, no country in the entire pirate world can match this feat. Even the daughter country ruled by Boa Hancock cannot do this. They can only do full armament Haki, but they can't do full two-color Haki. Moreover, at the suggestion of EC, the military area of Crown Island in the Calm Belt is now partially open to the residents of the living area. Except for some important areas, most areas are completely open and can be visited by the public. The main purpose is to allow the people to accurately understand that peace is not easy to come by. Let them witness the blood, sweat, and positive energy of the Royal Army with their own eyes. Let the people's hearts become more united and inspire their own patriotic feelings. The consequence is more and more people in the kingdom are looking forward to enlisting in the army. Even suggestions for the expansion of the kingdom's army are still emerging. During this time, under the organization of EC, the kingdom began a census operation. One after another, the people of the kingdom have been confirmed, and everyone has a special and unique ID card. With this ID card, every citizen of the kingdom cannot be impersonated by others. The ID Noble Phantasm card is bound with the blood of the subjects, and the information on the Noble Phantasm card will automatically change if the subject's personal information, physical status, or strength changes. You can even think of the Noble Phantasm card as an ultra-abbreviated version of the personal attribute panel. In addition, if the subject dies unexpectedly, the Noble Phantasm card will automatically shatter. Not only that, in the census, some spies from the world government and other forces were also found. The spies' fate was very simple. Under the anger of the kingdom's people, they were all turned into flower fertilizer. Even after discovering that there were lawbreakers in the kingdom, the people of the kingdom spontaneously began to report. In just 2 years, the atmosphere of the entire kingdom has taken on a new look. Under EC strategy, King Ilo worked with many ministers. Life in the entire kingdom is getting better and better at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even after the kingdom's army became stronger as a whole, EC also opened up some foreign trade permissions. In the kingdom of Helios, special products from other places gradually appeared. At the border of the kingdom, EC has set up a special trade belt. In the trade zone, no outsiders are allowed to enter, and there are heavy troops of the royal army. Outside the trade zone, some foreign merchants came here to trade. External contacts need to be implemented step by step, not overnight. In addition, as life in the kingdom became more and more prosperous, EC implemented a policy of prolific fertility, encouraged the people to have more children, and increased the population of the kingdom. A large population means that the kingdom has sufficient troops. Moreover, the world is so big, and the kingdom is now gradually opening up. EC believed that the kingdom could live well even with a large population. During this time, the changes in the kingdom also attracted the attention of the world government, because the kingdom is not an alliance country. Therefore, the world government, after losing some intelligence personnel, started some small moves. The biggest change is that the number of pirate groups near the kingdom's sea is slowly increasing. However, under the circumstance that the royal army was constantly changing shifts and patrolling day and night, this situation was effectively stopped. And EC also knows that now is not the time to fight against the world government. Therefore, EC also regarded these pirates as training soldiers. Fortunately, EC had the foresight to make the kingdom's army stronger first. Otherwise, if you still rely on the previous kingdom's army, I am afraid that the loss will be a little heavy. During this time, EC felt that the news of Helios Kingdom was blocked, so he set up a special intelligence department, relying on the training methods of modern intelligence personnel and ancient intelligence personnel in the memory of past lives. Under the combination of each other, a steady stream of intelligence personnel has been cultivated. Moreover, those intelligence personnel also quietly left the kingdom from the Calm Belt. East Blue, South Blue, West Blue, North Blue Grand Line, New World. Under EC's arrangement, these intelligence officers were scattered all over the world. Although the current number of intelligence personnel is sparse, EC believes that over time, the kingdom will send more and more intelligence personnel to the outside world. By that time, the kingdom's intelligence personnel will infiltrate various forces, and the kingdom will have countless eyes. After the founding of the country, maybe EC will know the world without going out. 11. Changes in strength. Plans to go to sea in addition to the huge changes within the kingdom. The biggest change in the entire kingdom is EC and others located in the palace training ground. At this time, in the training ground, EC had finished his kendo practice and was sitting on the side to rest and recover his strength. Looking at the four Dylans who were still practicing hard, EC's eyes gradually retracted. As soon as his mind moved, a light curtain that only EC could see appeared in front of EC's eyes. Treasure of the King, Helios EC, 8 years old, combat strength, C+, Commodore level, B+, Rear Admiral level, physical, C+ abilities, top swordsman, moonwalk, tempest kick, Haki. Conquerors, low level, armed color, intermediate. Knowledge color, high level, devil fruit, vampire fruit, intermediate, noble phantasm. Burial at the sea with a great knife sword, burial swordsmanship. 2-color Haki training manual, basic swordsmanship training manual, ID noble phantasm card. Looking at the various contents on the attribute light curtain, EC couldn't help but sigh. Sure enough, with my ordinary bloodline, even if I ate a devil fruit, my body's transformation was still a little slow. However, maybe because this vampire fruit pays attention to speed, my speed is very fast now. TSK. With Conqueror's Haki, with swordsman-level swordsmanship, with vampire fruit, and only Commodore-level combat power after 2 years. Sure enough, those novels in the previous life who reached the full level in minutes and were invincible in an instant were all lies. In this world where the body is supreme, the strength of the body is the foundation of everything. Even if the swordsmanship is high and the physique is not good, it will not be able to cut many flying slashes. Speaking of which, the awakening of Conqueror's Haki was indeed an accident. Thinking of this, EC couldn't help but think of when he awakened Conqueror's Haki. In the past 2 years, EC has not been immersed in cultivation all the time. EC also participated in the development of the kingdom. Even combined with the vision of the previous life, a large number of novel policies were proposed, which made the kingdom more prosperous. As the only heir to the kingdom, he gradually developed a majestic spirit during his participation in state affairs. And at the height of majesty, EC awakened Conqueror's Haki. It may be due to the different direction of the awakening. So EC is also a little different from the Conqueror's Haki of other people in the original work of the previous life. EC's Conqueror's Haki has a strong aura of majesty, and the golden air of justice and majesty shrouded in others will make it involuntarily raise the idea of surrender and even worship. Shaking his head slightly, EC continued to look at the attribute light curtain in front of him. In addition to the previous ones, the physical skills are still thanks to the spies of the CP organization and the world government. Tisk Marine's 6 styles has been tortured like this, enriching the cultivation methods in the kingdom. Not bad. As he turned toward him, EC's mouth twitched slightly. Then, look at the last 2 Haki progress. Observation Haki has nothing to say. After practicing for so long, and it is still the main training project, it is not surprising that he has reached the advanced level. However, because of Armament Haki's physique, the amount of Haki is there, but not much. Furthermore, after learning the skills of hardening and entanglement, I will not be afraid of Logia fruit power users after going to sea. Reaching out his hand and rubbing his chin, EC turned off the attribute light curtain from a year ago after familiarizing himself with his own attributes. Then, EC slowly raised his head and looked at the 4 Dylans who were still working hard in the training ground. Dylan Combat Strength D+, Colonel level. Skills: Armament Haki, Observation Haki, Cold Fruit. Marine 6 Styles Avery, Combat Strength B-, Rear Admiral Grade. Skills: Armament Haki, Observation Haki, Wild Lion Fruit. Marine 6 Styles Matif, Combat Strength B-, Rear Admiral Grade. Skills: Armament Haki, Observation Haki, Tibetan Mastiff Fruit, Marine 6 Styles Orton, Combat Strength B-, Rear Admiral Grade. Skills: Armament Haki, Observation Haki, Cloud Fruit, Marine 6 Styles. As EC watched intently, a simplified version of the light curtain suddenly floated from the four Dylans who were sweating on the training ground. This thing comes from EC's accidental fusion of a glass's treasure in the past 2 years, thus discovering the function of this glass's treasure. Noble Phantasm. Light-transmitting glasses type. Active Noble Phantasm type. Inherent Noble Phantasm liberation. You can check the general strength of others. Note that the greater the gap between your own strength and the detection target, the more inaccurate the information you find. The light-transmitting glasses are a pair of glasses-like treasures that EC unintentionally merged. In the past 2 years, EC has become more and more handy with the use of the treasure of the king. As a result, EC no longer needs to use some active noble phantasms. Even if it is placed in the treasure of the king, EC can release the effect of active noble phantasm in the air. Looking at the simple attribute panel of Dylan's 4, EC couldn't help but reach out and touch his chin. During this period, Dylan was a little weaker because of his ability to immerse himself in and develop the cold fruit. Ellie, She Mastiff, and Orton are constantly tempering their bodies, developing their Zoan Devil fruit, and earnestly exercising their physical skills. As a result, the strength of the 3 of them has reached the Rear Admiral level. Although they're just entering the Rear Admiral level for the first time, they're already very powerful. And EC, because he has learned too many things and his physical training is not as much as the 3 of Avery, so his strength is normally Commodore level. However, if the swordsmanship of EC's top swordsman really broke out, his strength could reach the Rear Admiral level, even stronger than the 3 of Ellie. It's just that the physique is not strong enough. So even if the swordsman slash breaks out, it won't last long. Looking back, EC began to think about the next development. Today is the year of C Circle Calendar 1508. In the past 2 years, there are not many major events, but there is one thing that impressed EC. In the past 2 years, the most reported in the newspapers is the continuous increase of pirates attacking the kingdom of such and such. In addition, one of the most sensational events is the Murloc Fisher tiger burning Mermaid incident. The matter was not widely reported in the newspapers. The newspapers at the time only said that Mermaid was suspected of being on fire. After all, the 5 elders would surely manipulate public opinion for such an event that would detract from the majesty of celestial dragons. However, it just so happened that an intelligence agent was lurking near the Sabeti archipelago at that time. After a series of secret inquiries, this piece of information was transmitted to the Kingdom Intelligence Department. Therefore, EC also received this matter from the Intelligence Department. Now, with the beginning of the era of the Great Pirates, pirates have become more and more rampant. Not only that, but some of the opportunities in the original works also slowly began to appear over time. According to the memory in EC's mind, the closest opportunity to him was the Op fruit located in Mignon Island, North Blue. In the original book, there were quite a few forces involved in the Op fruit incident on Mignon Island at that time. However, now EC has foresight, and no matter how well planned, Op fruit can also be obtained. In addition, 2 years of boring practice. Now, want to make great progress is not so fast. What is lacking most now is the experience, the actual combat with real swords and real guns. Moreover, the sea burial swordsmanship has now reached the level of a top swordsman. If you want to break through to Daji and Heyo, EC can step in at any time. However, EC doesn't want to follow the path of others, so now, EC, who lacks kendo of other swordsmanship genres, can only be locked in the realm of top swordsman. In order to get out of his own way of kendo, EC now needs to collect more swordsman's saber or other secrets of swordsmanship. Therefore, nowadays, there is only one way to quickly break through the bottleneck situation. That is, out to sea. That's right, set sail and sail to the sea. After going to sea, you can not only collect various devil fruits to build a legion of kingdom-capable people, but also collect swordsman's saber to improve your kendo. After the strength reaches the bottleneck. Only under the fierce battle like a storm can you improve your strength as soon as possible. Your Highness, Your Highness, Your Highness, at this moment, EC's contemplation was interrupted by a series of calls. Huh, are you finished practicing? Looking at the four Dylans in front of him, EC subconsciously asked. Hearing this, the four Dylan looked at each other, only to see Dylan step forward and replied respectfully. His Royal Highness, the four of us have finished our training. His Royal Highness has been sitting here all morning, and now it is lunchtime, so we will disturb His Highness. Hearing Dylan's words, EC couldn't help but froze for a moment. I just pondered for a while. Does time really pass so fast? Afterwards, EC didn't think much, didn't get up, but spoke to Dylan and others. Dylan, Avery, Mastiff, Fortin. Now our strength has basically reached a bottleneck. If we want to get a breakthrough quickly, boring training alone is not enough to satisfy us. So, I plan to go to sea. Hearing this, Dylan and the four were stunned for a moment, and then they all showed joy. Your Highness, please take us with you. Yes, Your Highness, please take us with you. We can protect Your Highness. Yes, we can handle all the other chores. Your Highness, take us with you. Seeing the expressions on the faces of the four Dylans, EC couldn't help but smile. I will definitely take you with me. Now, you're all practicing with me. I didn't say that you can leave now, so when I go to sea this time, I will definitely bring you with me. Hearing this, the four Dylan were overjoyed, but EC said with a serious expression when he saw this. However, you have to remember one thing. Going to sea is not a family game. Sailing on the sea, you are dead at any time. Pirates, storms, sea disasters, etc. You have to be prepared to face everything. Hearing this, Dylan's faces were firm. Don't worry, Your Highness. We have made all preparations. Seeing the appearance of the four, EC nodded lightly. Then he stood up and patted some fallen leaves on himself with both hands. Then I'll go to the king to discuss it, and you can have lunch by yourself. After saying that, EC turned and left, walking towards the royal dining palace. Behind them, Dylan and the others watched EC disappear and turned to leave the training ground. 12 negotiation walking among the pavilions and pavilions of the palace. EC soon saw a palace filled with the aroma of rich food. Entering the palace, EC saw King Ilo and Queen Eliza, who were having lunch in an instant. Father, mother. After saying hello, EC took a position beside her under Queen Eliza's gesture. Little EC, why do you have time to come here today? One hand squeezed EC's face, and Queen Eliza was a little curious. Hearing this, King Tho on the side also turned his head and looked over. Well, I came here today for something. Reluctantly, she stretched out her hand to remove Eliza's hand that kept kneading her face. EC said, Father, I plan to go to sea. Go to sea. Hearing EC's plan, King Ilo and Queen Eliza were shocked. What are you going to do at sea? Isn't it good to stay in the kingdom? At this time, King Ilo also put down the tableware in his hand and asked with a frown. Now, the kingdom has become stronger and stronger under your policies. In the kingdom, there are still some guarantees for safety. And on the sea outside, there are evil pirates everywhere. In addition, our kingdom must have received some attention and targeting from the world government now. Aren't you afraid of accidents when you go out to sea like this? Hearing this, EC couldn't help but reply. Father, now, the kingdom is prosperous. The overall strength of the kingdom's army is also constantly improving. However, there is still no absolute powerhouse in the kingdom today. Without the powerhouse, it means that the kingdom still does not have the strength to resist the invasion of other powerful forces. My strength has now reached the bottleneck period. If you want to become stronger, you can only go out to sea for actual combat. Also, you can collect devil fruit after going to sea. As long as there are a lot of devil fruit, the kingdom can form a devil fruit army. At that time, as long as me and Dylan are strong, plus the formation of the Devil Fruit Legion and the powerful Kingdom Army, then even the world government or marine would weigh in on the kingdom. After hearing EC's words, King Ilo fell silent. As His Majesty the King of the Kingdom of Helios, he is well aware of the shortcomings of the current kingdom. Don't look at the thriving and vibrant colors in the kingdom now. However, all this is just a loft in the sky. Above this piece of sea, there is no power to sit in the stronghold. And after all, it is still a piece of meat in the eyes of others. Especially the development of the kingdom of Helios in the past 2 years. King Ilo knew very well in his heart, although the matter that he had been controlling the kingdom of Helios was not rumored. Moreover, the royal army is also a pirate group that is constantly slaughtering the kingdom's waters day and night. However, the rapid development of the kingdom of Helios cannot be concealed. At the very least, world government and marine must be very clear. After all, there were world government spies before. After a long silence, King Iloa finally could only sigh. Ugh, the matter of going to sea is up to you to decide. Shaking his head gently, King Iloa also knows this kind of thing, and he can't help much. On the other hand, Queen Eliza was quiet when King Ilo was talking with EC. Now, after seeing the decision of the two, Queen Eliza's face is worried, but there is not much. Queen Eliza knew very well that she was a woman and could not interfere in the affairs of the kingdom. Therefore, even though he was very worried about EC going to sea, he still did not stop EC's decision. After EC heard King Ilo's words, he nodded his head lightly. Father, mother, don't worry, I will definitely protect myself. Also, going to sea is not ready so soon. Before I go to sea, I plan to practice at Combelt. So, the real time to go to sea will probably be half a year later. After speaking, EC's mind flashed as if he had remembered something and continued to speak. By the way, Father, how is the learning progress of the people in the kingdom now? Hearing that, although King Law didn't know why EC asked about these things, he thought for a moment and replied. The school has been continuously built and put into use. For the past 2 years, new schools have been built almost every day and will be put into use the next day. Nowadays, the school has spread all over the kingdom, and a large number of children and teenagers have basically received the school's education. And those adult citizens, according to the report of the Ministry of Education, most of them have been able to read and hyphenate. At the very least, simple things like reading and recognizing characters are already masters. Hearing this, EC's eyes lit up slightly. Father, even so, I have another idea. Huh? King Iloa was slightly taken aback. Tell me about it. Father, now, the practice manual that has been copied day and night for the past 2 years has been turned into a noble phantasm. EC's eyes flickered and he said, nowadays, the Royal Army could basically be said to have 3 training manual noble phantasms, 2 color Haki plus basic swordsmanship training book. Not only that, there are also a lot of training manual treasures stored in those schools. Now, the overall strength of the kingdom's army is improving at a rate visible to the naked eye on a daily basis. There is absolutely no need to worry about this. I think the development of the kingdom's military force can enter the next stage. Looking at King Iloa, EC's tone was unusually serious. With the opening of the trade belt on the border, the lives of the people have been greatly improved and enriched. However, according to the kingdom development strategy previously set, the trade area will gradually move towards the interior of the kingdom until the entire living area is completely open to the outside world. At that time, the kingdom will be centered on the Crown Heights, and this area on the Grand Line will be completely open to the outside world, and there will definitely be a large number of spies from other forces at that time. If those foreign forces really want to be detrimental to the kingdom's people will be a breakthrough for those forces. So, from now on, we will directly enter the stage of national cultivation. The development progress of the kingdom's army remains unchanged. However, the 4 legions of the kingdom's army are scattered every 3 months to various schools in the kingdom to teach the people to practice. The military area in the Combelt was open before. After the people felt the efforts of the kingdom, they wanted to join the army very strongly. Now, with just a little guidance, the people's enthusiasm for cultivation will fully explode. As long as the whole people are truly cultivated, then it can be said that all people are soldiers in the kingdom. By that time, the kingdom's grassroots combat power will continue to flow. and the mid-level combat power represented by the royal army will continue. After that, as long as the capable army is formed and developed, the high-level combat power will be much more. And the top combat power of the kingdom, when Dylan and I increase in strength, they will be able to deter all major forces outside the kingdom. Finally, when all this is ready and the country is founded, no one will dare to stop it. After hearing EC's appeal, King Ilo was speechless for a long time. However, the prospect of the kingdom described by EC's remarks made King Ilo feel extremely excited. Now, the entire kingdom is developing under EC's plan. Nowadays, basically all people in the kingdom can read and write. It also means that the people who want to cultivate themselves can understand the contents of the cultivation manual. With a large population in the kingdom, it is impossible to have 3 training manual noble phantasms on hand. Therefore, some experts in the kingdom's army must be trained and taught intensively in the academy. Speaking of which, most of the people in the One Piece world are illiterate or illiterate. Don't look at how big the world of One Piece is, but knowledge such as knowledge is basically in the hands of the nobles. Therefore, the vast majority of people cannot fully read and write. In addition, the civilians in the world of Pirate King are basically at the stage of being exploited. So, the reason why there are so many pirates, in addition to those who want to chase the treasure left by the Pirate King Roger. Most people become pirates for various reasons. In addition to becoming pirates, those people are not highly educated and cannot restrain themselves. Then, under the willful desire to release himself, he gradually lost himself in this morbid so-called freedom. In the end, burning, killing, looting, and doing all kinds of evil became the evil pirates that everyone hated. Therefore, people still need to read more books to improve their ideological and moral character. Therefore, when EC planned the development of the kingdom, the first step of planning included a plan to improve the cultural level of the whole people. Moreover, at the beginning of the establishment of the school, EC also paid special attention to the cultivation of ideological morality and loyalty. In this sick world, EC is nothing if he is an ordinary person. However, as a prince of country, he is the sole heir of the next king. EC, who has the memory of his past life, does not want the people of his own country to follow the crowd. If there really is no Peach Blossom Land and dreams in this sick world, then EC doesn't mind creating a Peach Blossom Land that the world longs for. Of course, the meal must be eaten one bite at a time, and the construction must be carried out step by step. Therefore, EC will continue to enrich his kingdom planning and design drawings. In 2 years, EC's kingdom planning and design has steadily completed the first step. In this pirate world with superpowers, no plan will span a long time like the previous life. Now, the first step in the kingdom's planning, popularizing the cultural knowledge base of the people and improving the overall strength of the kingdom's army, has been completed. The next step is to start a wave of national cultivation. Within the kingdom, there are countless resources that have been stored for hundreds of years, and no matter how many people cultivate, they can withstand consumption. In addition, the kingdom has now gradually begun to open up foreign trade, and the kingdom's resources will only increase. Therefore, it is completely feasible to start a national cultivation plan. 13 arrangement by EC at this moment. After listening to EC's vision of the future kingdom revealed by King Ilo, after the shock, excitement, and anticipation, the whole person could not help but take a few deep breaths. When he was forcing himself to calm down, King Ilo looked at EC, and a thought flashed in his mind. Or give way now, after all, in the past 2 years, under the various policies proposed by EC, the kingdom has entered a stage of rapid development. During this period, King Ilo knew very well that he was just a tool man. Communicate EC's policy and follow up on the implementation of the policy. Although I don't know why EC is such a small Grandmaster national event. However, King Iloa's heart was full of gratification and anticipation. It is gratifying because he has a successor, and he is even better than the blue. I look forward to it because I can see the founding day of the kingdom of Helios in my lifetime. For hundreds of years, the wishes and efforts of generations of kings finally saw bright hope in EC. The thoughts in his mind flashed away, and King Ilo could only think about it for the time being. According to the ancestral teachings of the royal family, if you want to inherit the throne, you must at least wait until you reach adulthood. Now, EC is only 8 years old, and if he wants to become an adult, he still needs to wait 10 years. But taking a light breath, King Ilo looked at EC and said, "The kingdom has entered a stage of rapid development under your plan in the past 2 years. My father does not intend to interfere with your thoughts and actions. If you want to go to sea, then go. However, after going to sea, you must protect your own safety. The kingdom can be without a father, but it must not be without you. You are the kingdom's only hope now, and you must recognize this yourself. In addition, the policy of all people in the kingdom to practice cultivation will be followed up by the Father Council. Although I don't have as many ideas as you for my father, I have at least been a king for so long for my father. There is still the ability to implement policies. You can go according to your plan, and the kingdom will always be your backing." Hearing this, EC lightly nodded his head. "Please rest assured, Father, I will be careful. Also, I'm not saying that I'm going to sea right now. I'll practice in the calm belt first, and then go out to sea. This time, I'm here to say hello to my father and mother in advance." After hearing EC's words, King Ilua smiled slightly. "You can make up your own mind. All right, let's eat." "Yes," EC responded. After the simple meal with King Ilo and Queen Eliza, EC left. Back in his bedroom, EC fell into deep thought while sitting on a luxurious armchair. In the conversation with King Ilo just now, some of what EC said was inaccurate. For example, in the top combat power of the kingdom, what EC said was inaccurate in order to appease King Ilo. Speaking of which, in this One Piece world, it is actually similar to the world of Hokage Ninja next door. They are all about talent, bloodline, ability, bloodline, fatalism, etc. If Zoan Devil Fruit is likened to the next door Hokage Ninja's white-eyed blood and limit, then the common species of Devil Fruit is a white eye with low purity. The ancient species Devil Fruit is a white eye with higher purity, and as for the Phantom Beast species, it is a white eye with perfect purity. That is to say, both common species and ancient species Demon Fruit power have an upper limit. Avery, She Mastiff, and Orton are all ordinary Devil Fruits, and their strength limit is at most the level of ordinary Vice Admiral, unless they are replaced with an ancient species later, or, if there is a chance, they will all be replaced by Phantom Beasts. Only in this way can they become top powerhouses. Therefore, the Treasure of the King is EC's biggest cheat, and it has played an unparalleled role now. Not to mention the bug of being able to change the Devil Fruit ability of others at any time in the future. As for Dylan, it goes without saying that Lung Fruit is definitely the inferior fruit of frozen fruit. But as long as it is properly developed, its potential can still reach the Admiral level. It's just that all of this needs to be developed by Dylan himself. Sitting on the chair, EC decided to replace the Devil Fruit for the 3 of Ellie, and then began to think about what to do next. First of all, going to sea is definitely not so fast. EC plans to practice at Combelt for a while, and then go to sea. Moreover, this time EC went out to sea not just because he wanted to improve his strength. This time out to sea, EC planned a lot of things. 1. Collect Devil Fruit and build a kingdom-capable army. The first is to take all the powerful fruits that are still without owners during this time period, such as Op Fruit, Thunder Fruit. The second is to be a demon hunter, hunt down the demon fruit power above the sea, and obtain those devil fruits by relying on the characteristics of the Treasure of the King. P.S. EC's conjecture about the Treasure of the King, which requires a real test to come to a conclusion. 2. Collect Swordsman Saber and obtain other people's swordsmanship styles. First of all, if you can buy it with money, it is directly buying the swords of other swordsmen. Secondly, if you can't buy it, you will travel the sea like Eagle Eyes and fight in the name of betting on the saber, so as to obtain the saber of the rest of the swordsmen. Even Dylan and others can lead people to snatch the swordsman's saber in the 4 seas. After collecting the saber, EC prepares to fuse the Wanjia swordsmanship genres and embark on his own path of swordsmanship. Since he planned to make the kingdom of Helios a kingdom of swordsmen, EC himself had to play a leading role. Besides the above two things, EC has one last thing. 3. Go to the kingdom of Germa and cooperate with Vinsmoke Judge to build a laser cannon. That's right, the last purpose of EC's trip to the sea this time is to go to North Blue to find a Vinsmoke family for cooperation. The purpose of cooperation is to build a large number of laser cannons. According to the appearance of Gene Shining's launching Noble Phantasm in his previous life, EC also planned to imitate it. However, EC does not have so many magical treasures, so EC has set his sights on high-tech. Imagine, when EC is suspended in the sky with a slight wave of his hand, there are ripples in the air. I saw that countless laser cannons appeared within the ripples, and then a salvo shot directly at the incoming enemy. That kind of picture, it's very touching to think about it. Moreover, don't forget, the world of pirates can be said to be a world of black technology. As long as the power of the laser cannon is great, maybe a round of salvo can directly evaporate a top powerhouse. By then, the kingdom of Helios will have a super deterrent. Even if the world government makes EC unhappy, maybe EC will shoot a salvo directly at Mariewa. By then, even if the 5 elders and that mysterious M would survive, those filthy, celestial dragons of Mariewa will surely all evaporate. Thinking of this, EC can't wait to go to North Blue now to find the Vinsmoke family. However, after being excited for a while, EC quickly calmed down. The meal needs to be eaten one bite at a time, and some things cannot be rushed. Through taking a deep breath, a bright light flashed in EC's eyes. Come on, tread ta-ta-tau. Soon, EC's shouting sounded. There was a slight sound of footsteps outside the hall. Your Highness, I saw the Apocalypse team, Aldo walked in quickly from outside the hall. The Apocalypse squad returned to EC's side after EC gave them a holiday. Since then, the Apocalypse team has become EC's personal guard. Of course, sometimes when King Ilo travels, he will also make a cameo in the King's personal guard. Aldo, now, there is a mission that requires you to go out to sea. Looking at Aldo, the captain of the Apocalypse squad in front of him, EC didn't make a detour, but spoke directly. Please instruct your Highness. Hearing this, Aldo suddenly became a little excited. You know, since becoming EC's personal guard, the Apocalypse squad has never had any other tasks. In the past 2 years, all 11 members of the Taianki team have mastered the 2-color Haki, and their overall strength has increased more than 10 times compared to before. For a long time, the people in the Taianki team have been gearing up, hoping that EC will be able to issue missions again. Unfortunately, it took 2 years to wait. Now, EC gave the Apocalypse squad a mission again, which made Aldo, the captain, extremely excited. Seeing Aldo's excited look, EC smiled slightly. This time, it is also a mission to go to sea. This time, you go to North Blue, and go to North Blue Mignon Island to lurk. Always pay attention to the tracks of the North Blue Don Quixote pirates and the Barreros pirates. P.S. The family name of Doflamingo can be called Don Quixote family, or Don Quixote family. The author uses the Don Quixote family here. If you find that the destination of their voyage is Mignon Island, then use the telephone bug to report to me immediately. As for the capture of the op fruit, you don't need to deal with it. Don't be alarmed by the grass. Hearing this, Aldo bowed to EC. Please rest assured, Your Highness, the Taianki team will never fail His Highness's expectations. After that, under EC's signal, Aldo left the palace directly. After Aldo left the palace to assemble the Apocalypse team to go out to sea to complete EC's mission, EC summoned the head, made Linda again. Linda, have the Ministry of Navigation and the Ministry of Intelligence be summoned. First, let the people from the Navigation Department prepare a ship. I will go to sea in about half a year and have it equipped with all the things. However, if there are special circumstances, the time to go to sea may be postponed, but we still have to prepare in advance. Second, order the personnel of the Intelligence Department to fully inquire about the location of the North Blue Vinsmoke family and monitor it. Yes, Your Highness. On the side, the head maid Linda heard the words and got up quickly. Seeing Linda leaving, EC couldn't help but whisper, "Things have been arranged almost, and then we will start to act." 14. Understanding the geographical division of the world. The next day, after the court meeting, a new policy quickly spread throughout the kingdom of Helios. According to the proposal of His Royal Highness, His Majesty the King and the ministers have decided to enter into the national cultivation stage from now on. In the schools all over the kingdom, the non-commissioned officers of the Kingdom Army will set up practical teachings such as taijutsu, haki, and swordsmanship. In these turbulent times, the kingdom does not want any of its people to be bullied. Therefore, in the kingdom, we have entered the stage of national cultivation, and I hope that all the people can actively participate. In addition, those with outstanding talents can make an exception to enter the Kingdom Army, and those with outstanding talents can get personal instructions from His Royal Highness the Prince. As soon as the new policy came out, the entire kingdom became a sensation. After the previous opening of the military zone, many people in the kingdom knew something about the kingdom's army. Find resources, clear pirates, deal with sea beasts, maintain law and order, expel sea kings one after another, one thing after another. Countless people know the greatness of the kingdom's army. Without their protection, without their hard work, the kingdom would not be so safe and sound. Seeing a lot of pictures of the blood and sweat of the royal army, countless people had a super shocking vision. It was also from that moment that countless people wanted to join the kingdom's army and want to protect their families and the country. However, due to lack of strength, all were rejected. After all, the royal army now has 2 million plus people. If it were to increase without limit, it would be a huge financial drain. Moreover, EC didn't want to make Helios a kingdom of war, so he never expanded his recruits. But this time, it has been clearly stated that those with outstanding strength can join the kingdom's army. As soon as this matter came out, the people of the entire kingdom were very happy. After waiting for so long, I finally found a way other than the army conscription period. For a time, the cultivation enthusiasm of the entire kingdom people was ignited. At the same time, the royal army also made a slight adjustment. Today, the royal army has a total of 4 armies in the south, east, and northwest. After fine-tuning, the work of the 4th Army of the Kingdom has also been assigned more clearly. Every 3 months, one of the legions of the Royal Army will enter a state of rest and adjustment. During the rest period, this legion can go home to visit relatives, practice on their own, travel, and so on. It will not be merged into a legion again until 3 months later, and then after a week of training, he will take over the tasks performed by other legions that need a rest. In the other 3 legions, the first one is responsible for guarding the crown heights, guarding the safety of the royal family in the palace, and protecting the safety of the kingdom's treasury. The second is responsible for the territory scattered into various schools in the kingdom to teach the people, and is responsible for the security and patrols throughout the kingdom, picketing out spies from other forces. The third one is responsible for overseas, part of patrolling the waters of the kingdom in the Grand Line, killing those pirates and other forces who want to invade the kingdom. In addition, this legion will also be responsible for a series of operations, such as island exploration, resource collection, and sea beast hunting in the calm beltwaters. The above is the adjustment of the kingdom's 4th Army. As a result, the work distribution of the kingdom's 4th Army has become more and more clear. On the other hand, just when the kingdom entered the stage of national cultivation. At this time, EC had already brought the 4 Dylans to the military area where the calm belt of Crown Island was located. "I have seen your highness." At this time, Abner, the commander of the Confederate Army, came to EC. After the fine-tuning of the 4th Army of the kingdom, it is now the South Army of the kingdom that is responsible for all overseas activities. "Commander Abner, long time no see." Looking at Abner, EC smiled slightly. In the past 2 years, because of the relationship between Dylan and the 4, EC has often seen the army commander of the 4th Army of the kingdom, so they're already very familiar with them. After hearing EC's words, Abner also chuckled lightly. "It's been a long time indeed, so I would like to thank His Highness once again for raising the dog." Hearing this, EC waved his hand. "I don't need to talk about this kind of thing. You always say that every time you see me, and you're tired of hearing it. Okay, tell me something about Belt. Although I have a little understanding of it before, I still need you to clarify it. I'm going to practice on the Belt for a while, and then I'll be sailing around the world to practice. Huh? Is your Highness planning to go to sea? Hearing EC's plan, Abner nodded, but didn't ask more. If that's the case, then please go to the barracks with your Highness first, and your Highness will explain the situation of the Belt to His Highness. Later, under the leadership of the Confederate Army Commander Abner, EC, Dillon, and the others came to a spacious and strong military camp. Walking into the barracks, all the way to a war room where the barracks is located. At this time, there's no one else in the war room here, but only a world map, and the rest is a round table and a few stools. Your Highness, take a seat, and then I will explain to His Highness the Belt, Grand Line, and the Four Seas. Abner came to the world map posted on the wall, motioned EC and the others to sit down, and said, "If your Highness wants to go to sea, then you can't just understand Belt." While pointing at the map, Abner quickly entered the state of explaining. At this time, EC and Dillon also found a place to sit down and listen to Abner's explanation quietly. First of all, according to the worlds recognized, the world we live in is a spherical world. The reason why we stand on land and not fall is because of the gravity of the planet. For the specific and detailed reasons, His Royal Highness can know these things by going to the Kingdom Library to find books related to the world overview. Now, let's talk about some branches of our world. Having said that, Abner pointed to the 4 huge sea signs on the wall in turn. These 4 divided sea areas are the 4 seas, namely East Blue, West Blue, South Blue, and North Blue. Then from south to north, the one that circles the planet vertically is the red line. This line from east to west, horizontally encircling the planet, is the Grand Line. And in the vast junction of the Grand Line and the 4 seas is the Belt. The Belt doesn't have any wind, so normal sailboats cannot sail within the Belt. Not only that, but within the Belt, a large number of sea kings live and operate in the Belt. So the Belt is also a place that people fear. Also, although the Grand Line is the general name for this waterway, it is divided into 2 sea areas by the Red Line. Grand Line also divides the 2 different names of Paradise and New World. The first half of the Grand Line, that is, the passage from Upside Down Mountain to Sabeti Archipelago, is called a Paradise. The specific reason is that the pirates in the first half are generally not as powerful as the second half. And the second half of the Grand Line, that is after passing through the Fishmen Island to the other side of Upside Down Mountain, is called New World. In the New World, there are countless strong people, and there are strong people with master Haki everywhere. And the above are some general divisions of our world's geography. Having said that, Abner pointed to the position of the first half of the Grand Line again. Now, tell me where our Kingdom of Helios is. The Kingdom of Helios, located in the first half of the Grand Line. Also, the location of the kingdom is very remote. The Crown Island, where the kingdom is located, is half in the Belt and half in the Grand Line waters. Among them, on the other side of the Belt where we're located, after investigation, it has been confirmed that it is East Blue, and the legendary Daughters Island is located in the Belt on the other side of the first half of the Grand Line. They're in the Belt near the South Blue area. Therefore, the waters adjacent to the Belt on both sides of the first half of the Grand Line are East Blue and South Blue respectively. As for the 2 sides of the second half of the Grand Line, North Blue is on the north side and West Blue on the south side. Having said this, Abner started talking about sailing on the 4 seas with the Grand Line. After you understand the location of Helios Kingdom, let's talk about some things about navigating this sea. First of all, within the 4 seas, basically as long as you have a compass and a chart, you can navigate. However, on the Grand Line, the compass is useless. If you want to go to other islands, you need a permanent pointer and a recording pointer. The permanent pointer will always point to an island on the Grand Line forever and never change direction. The recording pointer can record the magnetism between the islands of the Grand Line and correctly let people get to the next island. Because the magnetic force of each island is different, the recording pointer needs to be recorded locally for a period of time, and it will point to the next island after the magnetic force is full. if it does not reach the island pointed to by the recording pointer and reaches another island, the magnetic force will be replaced. It takes too long for some islands to be full of magnetic force. If you don't want to wait, you must use the permanent pointer to reach the island pointed to by the permanent pointer to replace the magnetic force, and then move on to the next island. But that's only the first half of the Grand Line, and the second half of the Grand Line, New World, is a different story. The permanent pointer of New World remains unchanged, but the record pointer has changed somewhat. The magnetic field in New World is more chaotic than the magnetic field in the first half of the Grand Line, so the recording needle used in the first half is useless in New World. New World needs to use a new record hand, which is an upgraded version of the record hand, with 3 coarse hands on one dial. This kind of record pointer points to 3 different islands, and then the pirates can choose the safest, that is, the most stable route for the pointer. Also, in addition to recording the pointer and the permanent pointer, the navigator is also very important. The weather in the first half of the Grand Line is changeable, and the New World is even more severe. At this time, navigators are very important. With navigators, most severe weather can be avoided in advance, and with pointers, people can reach the islands safely. 15 Calm Belt Experience. First encounter with Sea Kings. After talking about the pointer and the navigator, Abner paused for a while, then continued to speak. After talking about the pointer and the Voyager, which are 2 necessary issues of the Grand Line, let's talk about some other matters. First of all, the 4 seas and the Grand Line are one-way traffic. There's an estuary for the 4 seas in the south, north, and west, and an estuary for the first half of the Grand Line on the upside-down mountain. After entering the first half of the Grand Line from the 4 seas, you can't go back through the upside-down mountain again by boat. You can only sail all the way forward. Of course, there are other ways besides this most common way. For example, going straight across the Calm Belt can also travel between the 4 seas and into the Grand Line. For example, those with flying ability can fly directly from the air and travel between the 4 seas and the Grand Line without any problems. For example, relying on various tools and technologies to climb the Red Line, you can also go back and forth between the 4 seas and the Grand Line. Among them, according to the information from the Intelligence Department, merchant ships traveling around the world all have their own special waterways or a way to climb the Red Line stably. That's why some chambers of commerce become bigger and stronger and can spread all over the world in the Grand Line. It's just that that method is a secret within a secret. So far, the Intelligence Department has no specific information about it. So, at present, the vast majority of people who want to go to the Grand Line need to go through Upside Down Mountain. After talking about the world and the first half of the Grand Line, let's talk about the first half of the Grand Line and the New World. Sabeti Archipelago, the last stop on the first half of the Grand Line. Above the Red Line in the Sabeti Archipelago area is the sacred place of the world noble celestial dragons, Mariewa. We all know what celestial dragons look like, so the Kingdom of Helios has never become an alliance country. Stop talking about that. Let's go back to the sailing thing. After sailing to the Sabeti Archipelago, it was basically the last point of the first half of the Grand Line. There are 4 ways to go to New World. The first one, borrowing the world government's road in the Red Line. The second one, flying over from the sky. The third one, diving into the seabed through the coating. The fourth one, directly passing through the calm belt of West Blue or North Blue. After the past, it is the second half of the Grand Line, which is the so-called New World. Finally, if you want to go to the 4 seas from the Grand Line, the Kingdom now has a way. The Kingdom has also bought a lot of sea stone in Awakeni for hundreds of years. After the research of the Scientific Research Department, it is now installed on the bottom of the Kingdom's warship, and it can safely pass through the calm belt. Although it's not a 100% safety rate, as long as the occasional Sea Kings can be repelled, it can be 100%. Because there is no wind in the calm belt, the Scientific Research Department has developed a fuel engine after obtaining some fuel resources in the calm belt. Consume fuel and convert the energy it has converted into power, so that the Kingdom's warships can sail without the need for wind. So to get to East Blue and South Blue, you have to get to the first half of the Grand Line, and then take a fuel engine warship across the calm belt in the first half. Similarly, if you want to go to North Blue and West Blue, You must first reach the New World area, and then cross the calm belt on both sides of New World to reach North Blue and West Blue. This is the current way to travel between the Four Seas and the Grand Line within the kingdom. Currently, some of the resources in the kingdom are secretly purchased from East Blue. Now, although the kingdom has gradually opened to the outside world, it is still operating according to the previous mode of operation. Search for uninhabited islands in the calm belt to obtain resources, and pass through the calm belt to East Blue to purchase resources secretly. After Abner's final explanation, EC also really understood the general navigation of this pirate world. After the explanation, EC let Abner lead him to tour the barracks. Then, for the next few days, Abner took EC, Dylan, and others to prepare for the calm belt experience. A week later, at this time, at the port where the calm belt military zone of Crown Island is located, a luxurious warship is staying beside the port at this time. "Your Highness, please be careful," His Majesty the King said. "His Highness, please call back once a day." Standing at the port and watching EC and others who were boarding the warship, Abner couldn't help but feel a little helpless. For a week, Abner wanted to go with the boat in front of EC. However, EC refused all of them. This was not because EC was hypocritical, but EC knew that Abner himself had a lot of official duties. Moreover, when sailing in the calm belt, because of the Seastone situation, there are generally no sea kings. Even by accident, it was some small sea kings. The vast majority of giant sea kings and supergiant sea kings are in the depths of the ocean. It was because of the detailed understanding that EC refused to follow Abner. Moreover, in case of encountering super huge sea kings, EC can also directly use the super short distance airship transformed into Noble Phantasm to leave. That's right, EC's week wasn't without preparation. The Scientific Research Department has just developed an airship that can fly short distances, and EC directly extracted the best airship for Noble Phantasm. Noble Phantasm, the first-generation airship of the Kingdom of Helios type. Active Noble Phantasm type. Inherent Noble Phantasm liberation. After liberation, it can fly quickly at an altitude of 5,000 meters, and the flight distance is 100 nautical miles. This Noble Phantasm is something that EC specially went to the Scientific Research Department to extract and transform into a Noble Phantasm this week. With this thing, EC is able to get out of the air even if he encounters large sea kings. Okay, go back to your business. Seeing what Abner wanted to say, EC directly interrupted what he wanted to say with a wave. In the past week, the official business you have accumulated has probably piled up like a mountain. You also know that I have an airship Noble Phantasm, so safety is guaranteed. After speaking, EC waved his hand directly and stepped onto the warship. Woo! As the warship started, the jet pipes behind the warship shot out a large amount of flames. Then, the huge warship slowly left the port and sailed into the depths of the calm belt. On this warship, in addition to EC and Dylan, there are also navigators, helmsmen, and sailors turned into soldiers of the Kingdom Legion. The total number of people on the entire warship does not exceed 30 people. Standing on the deck, EC looked forward with a little excitement in his heart. Speaking of which, this is also EC's first voyage. The first voyage was in the dangerous calm belt. This exciting feeling made EC a little excited. His Royal Highness, this time to the giant Beast Island. You probably won't meet the Sea Kings. Aside, Dylan looked at the sea in the distance and couldn't help but sigh. Hearing this, EC smiled slightly. I hope not. If it's just small sea kings, that's fine. If it's large or very large sea kings, be careful. But there is an airship Noble Phantasm, but you don't need to worry. You can take off at will and stay away from danger. The warship sailed steadily on the calm belt, and after a while, EC, Dylan, and others started their own training. Don't look at the novelty of sailing at the beginning, but it is easy to get tired of looking at the unchanging scenery all the time. After the warship sailed for over an hour, EC was basically bored. Therefore, EC started to practice, and Dylan and others on the side also followed suit. At night, when EC fell asleep, suddenly, a harsh siren sounded into EC's ears. Beep! On the bed, EC's eyes snapped open. Then he got up and rushed out of the room. When sailing outside, everyone sleeps in clothes and pants, just in case of an emergency. Alarm! Small sea kings ahead. Quick, quick, reload the shells. Quick, keep your highness safe. As soon as he reached the deck, EC heard the loud warnings of the soldiers. At the same time, the lights on the warship are shining into the distance. In an instant, under the large and small long-range lights, a snake-shaped Sea Kings was printed into the eyes of EC and others. His Royal Highness, those are small Sea Kings. Judging from their size, they should be about 300 meters in size. At this time, the figures of Dylan and Eli and others also appeared beside EC. Fisk, first time seeing Sea Kings. Looking at the small Sea Kings getting closer and closer to the warship, EC's eyes flashed with light. Your Highness, leave it to us. Yes, Your Highness, let us solve it. At this time, She Mastiff and Orton couldn't wait. In response, EC shook his head to stop them. Let me do it. After all, I've been practicing for so long, and my hands are already itchy. As soon as he finished speaking, EC took out the sea burial knife from the void with golden ripples on the side. After the noble phantasm was transformed, the golden sword flashed with a cold light. I've been practicing swordsmanship for so long, so I just took a look at my own practice. Whispering, EC clenched the treasured knife and stared at the small Sea Kings who were getting closer. Clang! The sea burial is unsheathed, and armament Haki begins to coalesce. A layer of black armor began to spread and covered the sea burial sword in EC's hands. One-shot flow, horizontal cut. Swish! A pure black light flashed, and a slash formed by a sword glow, like a giant beast that escaped trouble, galloped towards the small Sea Kings that were getting closer and closer. Swish! Boom! The terrifying black slash was 30 meters long, and during its flight, a strong air pressure was formed. Wherever the slash passed, the air seemed to be distorted, making bursts of bursting sounds. Roar! At this time, the snake-shaped Sea Kings seemed to feel a deadly threat. He let out a loud roar, and then saw that he had no time to dodge, and could only slammed into it with blood in his eyes. Boom! The slash collided with the Sea Kings, and with the surrounding sea water bursting, a loud noise also sounded. In the middle of the violent sea water, the pure black slash was extremely tough, and it still penetrated the body of the Sea King strong after the collision with the Sea Kings. The bright red blood rose, and a huge amount of blood stained the surrounding sea. After the screams, the small Sea Kings, which had been divided into two, fell into the sea unwillingly. The waves rolled, and the Red Sea water continued to spread around, and the layers of waves made the warship undulate. At this moment, on the warship, Dylan and the others and the surrounding soldiers couldn't help but stunned. It turned out it was cut in half with one knife. With the incredible voice of a soldier, finally a strong cheer erupted from the entire warship. Long live your highness. Kill the Sea Kings with one knife. So powerful. So powerful. His highness is invincible. Ha ha. It's fortunate that I went to sea with his royal highness this time. Otherwise, I might have missed his highness Kamui this time. Invincible Kamui. Long live your highness. Listening to the cheers of the soldiers around, Dylan and Eli all showed bright smiles. It turned out that his highness was so powerful. In place, EC listened to the sound around him, felt the frenzied eyes from all directions, and couldn't help shaking his head. Okay, get out of here as soon as possible. The smell of blood is too strong. It is easy to lead to the giant Sea Kings. Yes, your highness. Hearing this, the rest of the people started to take action. Seeing this, EC put the sea burial knife in its sheath and put it back into the treasure of the king, turned around and returned to his room. 16. Practical experience within the calm belt back in the room. EC sat cross-legged on the bed and began to think about the slash just now. The slash just now is more than sharp, but not enough condensed. Furthermore, the current self can't achieve the level that the armed color is wrapped around the long-range slash. The slash just now was entangled at the moment it was cut out, but it dissipated during the flight. And now, I can't achieve the level of slashing into fragments at all. That kind of level should be understood only after reaching the level of a great swordsman. Then, the next step is to temper his slash's concentration and slash entanglement haki. As for the fragmentation of the slash, we can only talk about it after reaching the great swordsman. Sitting on the bed, EC carefully recalled his shortcomings. Even EC took out the sea burial knife from the treasure of Wang Ji and began to understand the kendo insights contained in it after liberation. Now, EC's swordsmanship has reached the level of top swordsman. I also have some ideas about my future path. No matter how strong Yamato's gorgeous swordsmanship is, they all come from basic swordsmanship, and they will return to their basics in the end. Therefore, EC plans to focus on practicing basic swordsmanship until his basic swordsmanship reaches the realm of Tongxian. Moreover, EC did not practice much for the sea burial swordsmanship, but created several slashing models from the sea burial swordsmanship combined with the basic swordsmanship. The horizontal slash just now is one of them, and the Sea Kings just now split the upper body and lower body into two under the horizontal slash. In addition, there are 3 types of oblique cuts, vertical cuts, and slashes. The name is very common, and you can even know what it means just by looking at the name. In the world of pirates, according to EC's understanding, the strength of a swordsman lies in the strength of his slashing. EC believes that as long as he integrates too many swordsmanship styles, even the most basic slashes of these 4 styles can have ever-changing.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.